You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Howdy, y'all, and welcome to another episode of David's Saturday Night Sitback, where my guests and I tell stories related to business, fitness, and culture with an aim to light your internal fire by the time this episode is over. And I'm excited you found us because over 90% of my guests have never done a podcast before, and for the ones that have, they typically haven't done a deep dive into their origin story like we do here. So I am curating a collection of episodes that you can't find anywhere else. With that in mind, my only ask of you is that as you listen to this episode, please make sure to subscribe or follow the podcast on whatever platform you're joining us on today. Today, sitting back with me is a psychology major from Columbia University. He originally was pursuing pre-med with a major in biology, but decided to pivot to focusing on brain activity in the sports world and learning how our brains interact with their surroundings. He played varsity football his entire college career, and before going to school in Manhattan, he grew up in Dallas and eventually made it out here to Austin, Texas. He's worked as an associate at one of our nation's premier consulting and management engineering firms before pivoting to sales for a company that helps promote, educate, and support human performance through motorized resistance applications. Today, sitting back with me is the one and only Jack Maverick Lee Ertz. And in addition to sharing his origin story with us, if you're interested in learning about the power of the mind, how perspective can change based off your environment, and figuring out how to be less concerned with what will be and more focused on what is, then grab a drink, sit back, and enjoy this conversation. Jack, thank you for who you are. Thank you for everything you bring to the table, and welcome to your episode on David's Saturday Night Sitback.
I appreciate that. That was quite the intro. I haven't been gassed up like that in a while. That was nice. I appreciate that.
Just here to make you feel good about yourself, my friend.
Well, I mean, mission accomplished so far.
Dude, that is one of my. I was talking with some friends. We went out for some barbecue around the 4th of July, and one of them was asking me about the intros, and he was like, "They're sort of long, and do you like them? And do you think like the audience might lose out on them?" I was like, "No. If there's one thing I won't compromise on, it's these, because everyone reacted the way you just did, where they're like." I feel sort of better about myself
honestly,
right now.
I was like, wow, like, yeah, I kind of reminded myself. I'm like, oh, wow, I have done that. Because, I mean, it's very much like I try to be here in the now, and I try to, like, not, like, you know, say, oh, like, I came from this, and I've done all these nice things. You should pay attention to me. It's like, oh, no, like, this is who I am. Like, I try to combat the stereotype, you know? Like, a lot of people just kind of, like, look at me and they're like, oh, I assume you're this. And I'm like, well, I can assure you I'm not. So, but then again, sometimes I fall right in line with the stereotype.
Well, this leads to one of my favorite opening questions. It could be the hardest question I ask you all day, so I figure we'll just rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with.
Let's do it.
Everything I just read is everything that you can find on you publicly, and it's a bunch of titles and what you've done for your professional world. But as human beings, we're so much more than that. We're sons, we're brothers, we're uncles, we're friends to people. We have people we love and who love us.
Oh, yeah.
If I was to ask like 2 or 3 people that know you better than anyone else in the world, who would they say Jack is?
Well, I would say one of those people would be my mom, and she would say that I would often be the first person to say that it's okay when you make a mistake, but I would also be the hardest person on myself when I made the same mistake. So with that, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't think that's a bad thing, but it also kind of goes into, you know, what we'll probably get into a little later, of when you put a persona on yourself and it kind of, you know, becomes a detriment to yourself because you end up talking poorly down, like you talk down on yourself. It's just, you know, it snowballs in a negative way. But I think my mom would say that I'm a caring, sometimes overly caring person in other regards. And then my best friend Colby from Dallas, shout out to my boy, he would probably say that I'm somebody that you want in your corner, and somebody that, you know, will make you feel comfortable, make you feel like you're, you know, a human, but also make you feel like you matter. At least, I mean, that's what I've gotten from them, and that's my hope. You know, faith plays a big part in my life. You know, church every Sunday. I was born and raised Catholic, and it's one of the things I try to do is be a good example for those around me. I don't have it all, you know, set and perfect. You know, I try to learn things. I feel like the last day, you know, you grow as a person is, you know, the day you actually die, and you still might be living when that's the case.
I just realized I've been dropping all kinds of expletives this morning. Does cursing bother you? Because I could definitely scale it back if that gets under your skin at all.
No, I cuss like a sailor. Like it depends on like the environment, but yeah, no, I'll get to a point where it'll flow. Yeah.
How do you and Colby meet?
Man, we met football 4th grade, and he played defensive line. I played offensive line. I was the big kid, so they put me at center whenever I first started playing. And then early on, played 2 years together. He went to a different middle school. I went to a different middle school. And then like our first class together, freshman year of high school, we reconnected. And then he was spending the night at my house like every single Friday. And we just rekindled that friendship, and we just took it ever since. He would come visit me whenever I was in New York. We still go on trips together. You know, he'll come down here. I was in Dallas this last weekend. We were working out together.
Heck yeah.
Like it was a typical guy relaletship.
Yeah.
We just pick right back up where you left off.
That's cool, man. That's awesome.
Oh,
Shout out Colby. Let's go back in time a little bit.
Let's do it.
Curious to see how you react to this.
Whoo! I know this one.
There's you.
Yeah.
For those real quick who are maybe listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, over the next 5 minutes or so, I have 3 or 4 pictures I'm going to be showing Jack. So if you want to jump over to YouTube just so you can see the pictures and then go back to wherever you normally listen, feel free.
That's fantastic.
That's you riding a horse.
That is me riding. I was at Paws Up in Montana. It was a 12-mile ride. And if you have ever ridden a horse, you know how uncomfortable that can be. But it's funny, and one of the next pictures, I made the joke, because if you break a horse, which means like it'll respond to your cues with the reins, if you can get a horse to walk backwards, that's a sign of a good horse. And so I got the horse to walk backwards. Well, I didn't. I mean, the horse knew how to do it. I didn't teach it anything. But I was like, I got the horse to moonwalk. And like that was like the thing that everyone was like, oh, that's funny. Nobody's ever said that before. And I was like, I wonder why. But yeah, this was a great trip. Yeah, we were in Montana for this one. But
were you visiting, or did you guys have some roots there or something?
No, my dad has roots in South Dakota, and they saw like this horse adventure type thing. And we were living in like tents for like the week, and we were fly fishing, so I learned how to fly fish on this trip. But yeah, they had horses, and I think I was wearing a Montana. It might be a Montana State hat. Yeah, of course, it's crooked. And then my flannel shirt and my jeans. I'm a rhinestone cowboy to its finest.
Heck yeah. Did you watch the show Yellowstone by chance?
I've seen it a little bit. I do think it's a little played out sometimes, but of course.
Get out of here.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no. I mean, I might ruffle some feathers with that one, but I'm not the biggest like TV show watcher. I like anime, so yeah, you guys are gonna flame me for like that in the comments. But yeah, I've seen it a little bit.
You are not wrong. The last season when they pulled Kevin Costner out, it almost felt like they panicked and they were like, "What do we do with the script? What do we do with the story?" The last season was awful.
Is he the guy who always wear the sunglasses and the black hat?
I think you're thinking of Rip.
Probably.
It's his right hand. It's his right hand assassin that does all his dirty work for him. So when Kevin Costner needs someone killed, he sends Rip to do it. Because we all need one of those, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, no, you're not. I asked that just to say that I was a huge fan of that show, and I sort of just want to go live ranch life. I want to buy some property that's far away from everyone, and it doesn't have to be as big as the Yellowstone, but just have some plants and some cows and some horses, and have a big old bunkhouse that can fit 30 of my friends and family. And if everyone wants to come out and we throw a big old hootenanny, we have the space to do it.
What are you talking about?
Have you ever heard this word?
I have, but I have an extensive jargon, but hootenanny is not part of it.
Well, when you sit around talking to people for hours on end, your words develop a little bit, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right, let's fast forward in time a little bit. I think this is probably the next one age-wise, chronologically.
Yeah, this is...
Who's that?
This is Mark Clayton. And this was at the Quarterback Ranch Passing Academy. I still had braces, so I would have been 7th going into 8th grade. And Quarterback Ranch was a group that I trained with in football. Nathaniel Popple, who's actually the cousin of Quinn Ewers, so a lot of people know that name. Some people might not know Nate. But the Texas A&M Kingsville group, whenever Nate played quarterback there, they all just got into coaching. And so when I had broken my foot the first time in like 2007, I needed to do like rehab. And so I met one trainer who like passed me along to Nate in this group. And this was like their first big passing academy. So they had, you know, like Brady Quinn, they had Mark Clayton, they had a lot of big names. I met Steve Largent at one of these, you know, former Seahawks Hall of Famer. And this is where I learned how to catch the football. And before that, I couldn't catch a cold. It was bad. I had like brick hands. I worked hard. I played defense. And my dad thought, well, if you want to learn what the offense is doing, you should probably go do like offensive like training so you can understand their tendencies. And so that made me a better defensive player by seeing it from the perspective opposite to what I would do on the regular. And then actually kind of was counterintuitive because I fell in love with offense. But at the time, you know, in middle school and like early high school, you're playing both sides of the ball anyway. So over time, I just gravitated more towards receiver and tight end. But yeah, this was with Mark Clayton. Yeah, jeez. My hair and my braces. That's, yeah. My sister called me baby giraffe. Because I have a long neck. And
you do sort of have a long neck.
Right? Hey, no.
Sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't insult you. You're a couple inches taller than I am.
No. It's true. It's true. I want to say it's like 6 foot, probably like $150 my freshman year of high school. So I was just like tall and skinny and just a beanpole. And I didn't quite like get into like my actual like stature and frame until like my senior year and then into college.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of tall dudes, and I've seen a lot of big dudes, but I haven't come across a lot of tall and big dudes. So you're a bit of an anomaly.
I appreciate it. The shirt is an extra large. It just fits a little tight. My sister made fun of me for it the other day, so that's all right.
That's sister's job. So I think you look great. This is a great choice for you for your fit.
I appreciate it. I went modest, as you can tell, and my towel as well, just in case I get sweaty.
Just in case. Before I show you the next couple pictures, growing up, did you have a sister that you mentioned? Was it just you two, or did you guys have any other siblings?
Yeah, no, just me and my sister. She's 2 years older. She lives in Arkansas area, and she's a registered dietitian. So she actually is, you know, my in-home personal nutritionist. Like that in high school and college, you know, she had a knack for that. So just one sibling, and then just obviously like pets and things, and you know, my 2 parents, and we just all grew up together.
What'd your parents do?
They're both journalists, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, my dad was Ron Burgundy. Like, he wasn't like what the movie was written after, but my father was, in fact, like Ron Burgundy. You know, like I think this will be worth the time to, because if you don't believe me, you're gonna believe me.
I believe you, but
I appreciate it.
You don't come across as a liar, but that's your dad?
That's my father.
that he doesn't look anything like you. Or I mean, reverse that.
Yeah, I look more like my mom. But yeah, my father was. I mean, take me back to the age of jive. You know, that spread collar. You know, my dad had the mustache, and my dad had the long hair, and he worked for CBS. And I have his old CBS Channel 12 news hat.
Will you please send me that so I can? Would he care if that flashed on the YouTube version?
We got it framed at home.
Okay, cool.
He doesn't like that.
Send me that.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, my dad was a journalist, and my mom was as well. My mom sold billboards. Like, she wanted to be like a salesperson, and she worked for Gaylord Texan growing up. And she modeled in Paris for a year when she was 18. And my dad was, a ranch hand, tended bar. His family owned a bar. And then he got into journalism after he shattered his leg in a tractor accident, believe it or not.
Can you tell that story? Do you know that story?
Of my dad getting into the tractor?
Yeah,
I almost sent this picture of my dad.
It's like, why are you sending me pictures of myself?
Yeah.
It's Saturday morning. You drinking already or something? What's going on here?
We actually texted me. He goes, "We're good. Just finished mowing and edging." Good job, Dad. How my dad broke his leg.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with just an old style tractor, big wheels on the back, and then the 2 small front ones are like more underneath, kind of like the rectangular like section. And it had rained the night before, and he was out doing his chores, and it was a gradient slope that wasn't like too bad, but he went down it at an angle, and the ground gave out from underneath him. And so there was no canopy on the tractor, thankfully. So my dad gets up from the chair and jumps from it as the tractor kind of tips down the way. So he jumps away from the tractor tips away. He doesn't get landed on, but it was a complete freak accident how he hit the ground. He just shattered his entire leg. And so I think that was when he was 18. And to this day, he can't still like bend his ankle, but his walking and everything, like he had to learn everything all over again. This is the same guy who had scarlet fever. When you think scarlet fever is like an old, like ancient thing that was taking people out in the plague. My father he's one of two people in the area to ever have scarlet fever, and he actually got that and his leg. Like two big things. I mean, like would take a man down.
Yeah.
But he was told that like Nebraska, like it's like, we want you to play baseball and football. And then that happened, and he just couldn't fulfill his collegiate dreams. So he found journalism. He put all his effort into that, and then through that he ended up finding my mom. So it all kind of works out, like whenever you think it's going to like be really, really bad, I always live by life can only be lived forwards, but it can only be understood backwards.
Yeah.
You'll never understand. And some people say that's a cop out, but then again, you don't know what the future holds. So you don't know what's going to happen. You could be in some shit right now, but that doesn't mean it's not going to get better. It might get worse before it gets better. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like It can get very, very bad from time to time, but there's always a better way to spin it. It's a better perspective when you look at it that way.
Yeah, after sitting here with 130 people, one question that I've asked a couple of the folks who have had more difficult journeys is, would you change any of it? If I was a genie and I could snap my fingers right now and make those memories disappear, or change the fact that you ever had to walk through whatever that situation was, all of them without even hesitation said no, not in a second, because they're so grateful with what their life is today. And it's the butterfly effect. If we had messed with that situation, what if I never met my husband, my wife, had never had my kids, never found this job? Like, we need those. We need the tough times. Exactly. Unfortunately.
Exactly. I mean, I love cliches because I think they hold true. A lot of people, like, I'd get, my teachers in college would be like, yeah, it's not good to end on a cliche. And I'm like, well, again, it's subjective writing. So, to each is their own. It might not be the best thing in the world, but, some might say without the dark, you can't have the light.
Yeah.
You have to have contrast. If everything's just is, then everything, you can't be good or bad. And then if you look back and you ask somebody who enjoys their life and you say, would you change anything? They say no, because every mistake that you have done in the past, if you didn't make those things, like if you didn't have that bad event or that mistake, you'd erase who you are today. And if you like who you are today, that's one way to look at it. If you don't like who you are today, well, that's good, because you have more things coming. You can progress and you can do things like, later on.
Do you like who you are today?
I do very
Fuck
much.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel really, really good. It doesn't feel like a filler episode. Shout out to my anime fans, but it feels like there's purpose, and I feel grateful. Like I feel very happy. Like, I get up and I have a crucifix in my room, and so like I'll always say a little prayer, I'll kiss the top of it, and then I'll carry on with my day, and then I'll go down and make breakfast. Like I'm very, very thankful for what I have, and I know that it can be taken away at any moment. So it's not what makes me happy. It's all the lessons that I've learned that I'm able to look back fondly on and know that there's more things to come.
What did you pray about when you woke up this morning?
I just was I was thankful for another day. I was thankful for. It was more of a Thanksgiving. It was more of just like let today be what it is. Let your will be done for me, and may I progress in the best way possible and be open minded. Like you said, we this is our first time meeting.
Yep.
And it can be very daunting. It's like, hey, all right, second room on the left. And if you need me to, text me. I'll come out and I'll find you. But again, it was very much just like open-minded. Like, don't be closed off. Don't have any like prejudices. Don't have any preconceptions. Just go into it like be formless like water. Bruce Lee. Don't have anything that is going to make you rigid. Just flow. If you're in this cup, you're going to take the form of the cup. If you're in a bowl, you're going to take the form of the bowl. If you're in this room, take the form of the room. Take it as a podcast. I'm not on the football field right now. I'm not in the weight room. There's no sense in being, standoffish and closed-minded and very focused. Like, don't talk to me. I have my headphones on. This is a different situation. Yeah. So be where your feet are. Be the kind of, area you're in.
Dude, I'm fired up.
Dude, I'm fired up.
I'm
fired up. This is good.
This is a fun Saturday morning.
This is a great Saturday morning.
Yes, it is. Did your dad's involvement in sports have an influence on you being involved in sports, or did you go after football because it's something that you genuinely enjoyed for yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's twofold. I enjoyed football. My dad was big baseball. Like my dad was 15 pitching to 18-year-olds and still holds records in his county in South Dakota. I might not be saying much because it's South Dakota, but it's my dad. My dad could throw over 90 as a 15-year-old, and that was very, very impressive. And my dad loved baseball, and so he wanted me to play baseball. He wanted me to become a pitcher. He wanted me to, really pursue those dreams. But my dad also was open-minded to say, even if you don't, like, it's not a failure. And my parents had the philosophy of if you did an individual sport, like if you played tennis, or if you played golf, or something that's more like it's not so team-oriented. Like gymnastics is team-oriented, but obviously it's your routine. If you play one of those, you got to do a team sport. So, growing up, I did karate. Okay, individual. Well, I also played soccer. I feel like every kid plays soccer.
I did.
And does karate at some point. And then, baseball, of course, blast ball, when you run and that base, it just sounds really, really loud when you run on it. And T-ball, of course, and then coach pitch all the way through. And then freshman year of high school, I was like, I just don't want to play anymore after this. I want to focus on football. My dad was completely fine with that. So long as I had something that I could put all my effort into, because it keeps you out of trouble. Yep. It keeps you going forward. It gives you something to work towards, something bigger than yourself. You have an individual goal, because everyone has to do their 1/11th on the football field. There's, there's 22 people on the field at one time, not counting the referees. And if you don't do your job, the play might still succeed, but oftentimes it doesn't have a greater chance if you're not doing your 1/11th. So with that, it was the best of both worlds. I fell in love with football. I fell in love with the contact. I was still playing at the time where, blindside blocks, heavy hitting, that was still allowed and not flagged, unless it was completely egregious. But it was really something, I'm gonna kind of get off what your question was, but my dad directed me in the sports world, and then I used that to progress in terms of college. A lot of what I've learned and what I still implement today is from sports in general. Like a lot of my mentors, like even Mark Clayton, like I met him again not too long ago, and it's just like reconnecting with old friends. It's just a connection that I was in middle school, and now that I'm an adult, it's these people are still around. It's not like your teacher at the grocery store. You're like, whoa, you're not supposed to be here. It's like this is an actual person in society. It's like, oh, I can say hi to you.
Dude, I wanted to play football so bad, but my parents told me, you're going to hate this. They were like, we're not going to let you play football because all football players become criminals.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, it's
well,
funny
because... Were they watching the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida Gators?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, historically, I think Tim Tebow's group, I believe the stats are a third. Like a very large percent, not the majority, but they've served jail time, which it's not the best, but I think that's why it's very important, because just think about how bad it would be if a lot of young men and women didn't have the mentors that they had. Oftentimes people do turn to sports because it is a safer space.
Yes.
And so if they're like, oh well, they ended up still doing something bad, well, think about how much worse it could have been.
That's true.
And so, again, glass half full, half empty. But yes, it can be where sometimes aggressiveness can come from football. But sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. And I mean, it's true of any population, right? There's going to be bad cops and good cops. There's going to be bad podcasters and good podcasters. There's going to be, you look at any group of teachers, dietitians, coaches, there's gonna be a bad apple in every population.
Oh, for sure.
And I wish I was like, man, I wish I pushed back on them a little bit. I didn't. It is what it is. Is this your mom?
That is my mother.
There she is.
Yeah, that was so these jerseys I would have been, I think, in the gloves I'm wearing and my hairstyle. I think this was junior year of high school, and this was after one of the games. I was sweaty as can be, no tattoos. And yeah, that's my mother. It was this was after a varsity football game my junior year.
You and your mom are. I'll include some of the pre-conversation that we had before we started the music, so the audience might hear some of it. But from what I've learned about you so far, you and mom are pretty close, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a mama's boy through and through, and I like that because my parents have always showed me like what true love is. With two parents growing up, and even if they have their differences, you can always work through it. And if you want to see how a man is going to treat his potential spouse, look at how he treats his mom. And if you want to know how a girl's going to be in a relationship, look at how her relationship is with her dad. And it doesn't always hold true. Again, a lot of what, I say might be a majority, might be a minority. But from what I've seen, if you want to see a good man, see how he talks to his mother and how his relationship is. And those aren't going to be one-to-one, because obviously you have a different relationship with your spouse than you would with your own parents. And there can be very big differences, like, they think I'm making a dumb financial decision. Well, again, it could be the age thing. It could be a lot of things. But in terms of the roots, I would say that it's very, very important. And I don't say that to then gas myself up and say I have a great relationship with my mom, so I'm just a phenomenal individual. But yeah, no, I as I've gotten older, I do know that I need to be the man of the house. And a wise man once said, you need to be the strongest man at your father's funeral someday. And hopefully that's not anytime soon, but it is something that I continue to work and grow towards, because I know that at some point it will happen, and then I will be the man of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... But yeah, have a very big, strong relationship with my mom and my dad. Like, I go to them both for different reasons. Extremely lucky, extremely blessed to have them both in my life. I was even talking to my mom this morning, and I was texting with my dad. He's telling me that he's going to go mow the lawn. I'm like, that's awesome, Dad.
Dude, that's cool. I can take that one from you. Yep. Me and my mom, we're super close, but she's never been a big texter or phone caller. And so every now and then I'll give her a call, and it'll go to voicemail, and I'll leave her a message and just be like, hey, Mom, call me back. I'm free for the next 4 hours. And then she'll text me and be like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And I'll say, nothing's wrong. I just wanted to talk to you because I miss you.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, so you don't actually need to talk about anything specific? I'm like,
well, that could also be old school. That could also be like, why are you disturbing me in my peace?
Yep.
But I think also, it goes to show, you're making the effort.
Yes.
That's oftentimes what's missed, is people don't want to make the effort because they're like, I don't think I'm going to get the outcome I want. Well, that's not why you do things. You don't do them because of the outcome. You do them because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
At least that's why you should do them.
Yeah.
You should work out because it's healthy for you. You shouldn't work out because I want to look a certain way.
That's why I do it.
That might be. Again, it can be motivating.
Tell me you don't like how big your arms are.
Dude, honestly, well, here's the thing. I'll say I understand that, in terms of my appearance, I look athletic. But I'm even my own biggest critic, because, I look at the people at the gym and I'm like, well, my arms aren't as big as his arms. And I think it was Scotty Scheffler. He's been winning all these tournaments in golf. He's got all the money in the world. And he's like, on Sunday, I hold the trophy up, I get my big old check. He goes, Wednesday, I'm just at home. And so he's like, now what? It's very unfulfilling. You have a massive house, there's more to clean. You have this great physique, well, it's more to maintain. Yeah. So there's always going to be more, and you're always going to want more, which can be a good thing. But then again, it's also when you put on the persona of, this is who I've become, I think that's when it becomes bad. So it's I want to do it because I want to be a better me. Fantastic. That might come with sub goals, but when that becomes the main focus, I think you get sidetracked. I want this new car because I think people are going to think I'm really cool and successful. Well, what if those people that you thought were going to think that, they don't care? So now you have the car and you're like, oh, I only got it for their approval, but you also got the car because you wanted it. So now it's are you doing it because you want to do it, or are you doing it because you think somebody else is going to like it? And when you do it for other people's approval and you don't get it, that's when it becomes disheartening, and then you stop doing it. That's why people who post on social media stop, because they're like, I'm not growing as fast as I want to. I'm not blowing up. I'm not like that one post. My post is so much better than their post. Why is it not getting the same attention? Well, it just didn't hit. That's okay. Do you post for the attention, or do you post for yourself?
Yeah.
Which one will take you farther?
That's huge in the podcast world. I don't know if you've ever heard this stat, but of all podcasts that start, 90% of them don't make it. Guess what episode they don't make it past? Guess the number of episode when they give up.
I'm going to say it's got to be less than 30.
It's 3.
Woo! Yeah, I was wrong. I mean, my God, 3.
So 90% give up by episode 3. You have 10% left, and another 90% give up at a different milestone. Guess what that next milestone is?
17.
You're very close. 20.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
And I think, dude, I haven't met a lot of podcasters. I've tried they're the hardest people to get on. And I don't know if it's like a scarcity mindset where they're like, oh, well, if I go on his show and my followers see that, then they're going to start listening to. I can only speculate, right? I don't know why all the podcasters are ignoring my invitation. But for me, I love it. There's nothing I'd rather be doing right now than sitting here talking to you. This is fun.
This is
and
a
if
good
no
time.
one else listens to this conversation, which they will, there's a few listeners. My mom will tune in. Your mom will tune
my
in.
mom will tune
We'll get
in.
at least 2 plays.
Yeah.
But like, dude, I just enjoy it, and it makes me wonder for that huge mass of people that are giving up at episode 3 and then again at episode 20. Why are they doing it? Are they doing it because they thought they were gonna be Joe Rogan overnight? Are they doing it because they wanted attention? And then, unless you are a celebrity, it's a long game. It is not a short game. The podcast. So maybe they posted those first 3 episodes. They got 20 people that hit play, and they got discouraged. So I don't know why all these podcasters are giving up, but dude, that stat blew my mind when I heard it. It's like, that's so many people giving up.
No, honestly, and I think, whether it be because they want the fame, or it's just not what they thought. They might have tried it and been like, this is way too much for what it's worth. It could be a multitude of things, but it is. I mean, it's unfortunate because I feel like, I've been told you could do anything for a year. A year's a long time. 12 months, 365 days, 365.25. That's why we have a leap year. But it is, it's interesting because three. Anybody can do something 3 times.
Yeah. Yes, you can.
I mean, anybody can do something for a year. Like, you could work a job for a year. If you really want to sit there and think about like time and how like fast it goes, I would say 2 things. Next time you get your license renewed, or next time you have like something like that, just make a note somewhere and then forget about it. I remember having my driver's license whenever I was 16, and then like 8 months later, I was like, holy shit, I've been driving legally for 8 months, and it flew by. Like, when you forget about it. And if you want to have an interesting perspective on time, next time you buy something at the grocery store that you don't usually get every single time, think about how long it's going to take you. I'll sometimes make a game with myself. I'm like, I wonder where I'll be in life when this tube of toothpaste is gone. Because that could be like 3 months and 2 weeks, or it could be 6 months, depending on how much toothpaste I'm squeezing onto the toothbrush, or if I'm using a different tube because I'm traveling. Again, I'm getting way too into the weeds, but it's an interesting concept of time. But for the fact of the matter, anybody can do anything 3, let alone 5 times. So that's wild. Look at you. Is this 180?
Oh, thank you. We're not that far. This will probably end up being like 133, 134, somewhere in there.
I mean, still, dude, you're part of the 1%. That's something to be
stat
very
that
proud of.
I'm very excited to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're laying the groundwork, the foundation, and I mean, you're having fun. I mean, you got a lovely space. I mean, the neon lights. I mean, like it's good.
It's a good time.
It's a good time. And
it's
then
a good time.
When you continue and you look back on this, you're like, I remember where I came from. I remember Pickering Park in South Lake, Texas, is the park that I started training football in. And then people ask me, it's like, well, where's the coolest place that you've ever been? It's like, well, we did a walkthrough at MetLife, where the Giants play in college. I was hurt, but I was on MetLife's field.
Yeah.
I played in all the Ivy stadiums. It was cool. As a Pee Wee football player, I got to play on AT&T Stadium. I played at the Star in high school. That's where the Cowboys practice. So I've played on some really cool fields, and I've been to some great gyms and things. But it's like when you look at where you started, you didn't think about the equipment. You didn't think about how cool my cleats looked.
No.
My cleats when I played football were called the Super Bad Land Sharks. If any football players listening to this, they will know that those were my shit. Like, those were the cool cleats. They were black and white, and they were awesome. And now, everyone's concerned about how they look, And I'm sorry, if you're trying to figure out what's the best way to look, how should I have my pants? How should I get these socks over this? Put the damn socks on. That's team issue, and go out there and play football. Look at Alabama. Black cleats, white pants. It's a red jersey or it's a white jersey. They do not care. Yeah, you have big programs like Oregon that have all the, in the world, all the different combinations. It's different. But when that's your bigger worry is how do I look rather than how am I going to play, your priorities are mixed up. It goes back to, am I doing this for me or am I doing this for somebody else?
Yeah.
Look good, play good, same way. Same thing with the SAT. I was horrible at the SAT and ACT. Absolutely terrible. I took both 4 times. Absolutely horrendous. And it still worked out for me. It's all right. But I couldn't just roll out of bed and take the test. I had to get up, I had to shower, I had to put a button shirt on, button shorts, and I wore a floral, but I felt like I was going to the beach. And I was like, this makes me feel better. And so I got there, had my water, took my test, did well. Other than that, like, yeah.
Do you have an alter ego that you activate when you're going to perform? Whether it's on the field, taking a test, showing up to a podcast. Have you ever thought about that concept before?
Honestly, no, because I think I just am so like myself. Like I'll just become more and more of myself. Like I'll just be goofy, you know? Like I feel like there's never like a situation where like you can't like, you know, crack a joke. You know, like obviously there are times where it's not appropriate, but you can always find some sort of light, some sort of smile, even in like a darker time. So I wouldn't say it's like necessarily an alter ego. It's just more of who I am. And so I might, you know, get to a point where I'm like, I'm exhausted. And so this is tired Jack versus energetic Jack versus like inquisitive. But it just has like, you know, really just kind of goes off my energy level. And, you know, obviously I had my C4, had a good night's rest. You know, I took a melatonin, I was out, and then I slept in, had a good breakfast, had a lot of cinnamon bread this morning. So
Ooh, we're getting C4 sugared up Jack this morning.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Exactly.
All right, last picture. You remember this moment?
Oh, that is with Grant.
Who's
Yeah.
Grant?
Grant was one of my buddies at the Special Olympics. This was freshman year. And we, as football players at high school, would volunteer with the Special Olympics. So they would bring a lot of the different groups from the surrounding areas of Dallas-Fort Worth, and they would do track and field events. You know, are you familiar with the Special Olympics?
Yeah.
So Grant was one of my buddies, and Grant had a superpower where he knew every single day of the week on what day it was going to happen. And so like I was talking with his dad, and he was like, "When's your birthday?" And I said, "It's on Halloween." And then he goes, "Hey, Grant," and Grant's, you know, sitting like a few feet over, and he says, "What day of the week is Halloween on this year?" And he goes, "It's going to be on Saturday." And I was like, "Oh snap!" I was like, "That was really." And again, Grant.
And he was right, I'm assuming.
Well, he was actually wrong originally. But it's honestly, it helps the story that he was wrong originally, because I look at his dad, and of course I didn't want to be like, "Your son's wrong." Like I didn't want to tell him like it's not a superpower. But Grant, like as I'm talking with his dad, I'm like, "Oh yeah," well, this last year being a leap year, it actually like alters. And then Grant like just like he's like, whoa. He's like, "It's on a Friday, leap year." Like he figured it out.
Yeah.
Like he realized like, oh no, everything shifts. But the fact that he like did all of that, like he just spaced out. He was just like Saturday, and then he's like, "Wait, no, Friday." And I was like, "That's impressive." And his dad was like, "Mm-hmm." He's like, "Yup." But yeah, Grant got second in the ball throw as well. Yeah, Grant and I, we were killing it that day.
Do you have a superpower?
I can do a backflip.
Yeah, you did one yesterday.
I did,
or
yeah.
this week. I saw that somewhere this week on Instagram.
Yeah, I didn't. I had what is it? My sister and her friend commented, and they were like, "You're not throwing your hands high enough. You know, you're not rotating around your shoulders like
Your
you should."
sister is just always giving you.
She's on
shit.
her honeymoon too. I'm like, Piper, I'm like, enjoy your time away from me. And she's over here like, "Oh, I'm here for you. Like, you know, I've taught you better." I'm like, "Are you heckling me from Jamaica right now?" So, but yeah, no, I mean, I'd say superpower. I mean, I don't want to say psychology is a superpower and then, you know, go down that road, but I do think I have the ability to match people's energy. You know, I can make a very uncomfortable situation, you know, I think a lot better, because somebody might be, you know, trying, but it might just not be like the best with social cues, you know? But you want them to feel included. I never want somebody to feel bad for like being themselves, unless it's a detriment to themselves or others. So I would say, you know, just being like, you know, comforting and understanding, you know, and that goes with me like wearing my, you know, my heart on my sleeve. I want people to feel welcomed. And what I've said to some people, regardless of where the situation goes, and like, you know, if this is the only time we ever cross paths, or if we cross paths every single day for the next 10 years, I want you to look back on memories with me and say, you know, that's a good guy. That's a good person. And, you know, I know that this is true and this is good because, you know, Jack said so. And I know Jack said that in good faith because it made me feel this way, and that's good. So I would say like that in a nutshell. It's not necessarily like, oh, like I make people like feel like they can fly or I can read minds, but I think in a roundabout way, it's just, you know, making people feel welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can also sometimes not be that way, and I can be very callous and pointed. Again, my mom and my sister are like, you need to watch your tone, because then I'll focus too much on what I'm saying, not how I'm saying it.
What gets you into the mode where you can be calloused and pointed?
I'd say when I notice an inconsistency and somebody tries to combat it, and like I'm very prideful in that way, and something I've really, really tried to work on, and I've struggled with, frankly, because for the longest time, I would care too much about what other people thought of me. That was my biggest care in the world. It was my biggest detriment to myself, and so the way that I would get around that is actually started in football in college. So I came from being like one of like the big guys. I was a captain in high school, and now I'm going to a program where I have to reestablish myself. It's like going into a new corporate job. You have to start at the bottom. You have to work yourself all the way up, especially entry level jobs. And I never wanted anybody to think like, oh, Jack doesn't care. Jack's not working hard. He's trying to like take today off. And so the way I would get around that was by visibly showing that I was already upset at myself when I knew I made a mistake. And because of that, I noticed that I got a reaction that I wanted, which was just let Jack do his thing, rather than telling the coaches, hey, I don't take well to you doing that, because I felt like that was like a cowardly way to go about it. And again, my pride was in the way in that. So this was my best course of action. Allow me to show you I'm already saying all the things that you would say to me. Because if coach comes up to you and he's like, you don't care, you're effing this, and you can just say, like, all right, no, I know he's got it wrong. I'm just going to do really well in this next rep. Well, instead, I would like show that to myself so the coach doesn't have to say anything. And at first, I was getting it off my back because I was like, all right, cool. Like nobody's going to, I got it. Like nobody's talking to me. I got it. Don't worry. I can handle this. But then that slowly turned into, I was believing what I would tell myself, even though at the beginning it was an act, because I just was like, I just don't want people to like, get the wrong impression. But because of that, I was doing it for other people and for a certain response. But then I started to hear myself. And so I then started to talk bad to myself. And that, and I'm getting to kind of, what was even the original question? That's what
what brings out, when you become more pointed and callous, brings that out? What triggers that?
Yeah, and I honestly, I would say it just comes down to pride. When you try to do things too much on your own. And when somebody, tries to come at me and say like, well, you don't care. And it's just like, okay, instead of trying to understand why they'd say that, I would immediately defend myself. And I was very one-sided. I'm like, you're telling me I don't care? I was like, look at all these things that I've done. Well, that's not what you should do. If the other person doesn't think you care, they might have it wrong. They might have it right. And so I would be very, very prideful. So I get very, very protective of myself. I used to. Now I try to understand the other person so I can see, is it a misinterpretation on their side, or am I not explaining it the best? Again, I talk in circles.
This is wildly off topic, but I want to ask it because it might not be off topic.
Yeah.
For those who are listening, you won't be able to see, but Jack has a tattoo on his right arm that says Jesus wept.
Yep.
Growing up Catholic, did you embrace that? Did you fight that? Was it almost just like, oh, something we do on church, or on Sundays we go to church and at dinner we pray? Like, what was your reaction to growing up with religion playing a character in your household?
Oh yeah. I mean, my dad is the one who introduced me to the faith. He had me and my sister baptized Catholic. But for a long time, as a kid, you see it as boring. You're like, all right, I don't know what this guy with all the robes is saying. He's kind of just going through things. I'm told this is what I believe. Whether I have like good teachers in my life or not. Like I would listen to my father, and I would kind of go through the motions because this is what you should do. I just don't necessarily know why. And, if there was a little point in time where I was like, it's boring. I don't want to go. I don't want to get up early on Sunday and go to mass. And my dad would say, okay, that's your choice. And my dad would still go. And then I would see my dad get up and go, and then he'd come back. And I felt bad.
Yeah, I would too.
I felt terrible. But again, looking back, it was how strong my dad was to continue to go. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, I want to go because I want to spend time with you. I want to spend time with my dad. And so I would go, and slowly I'd kind of try to understand. I'd ask, questions. I'd become more inquisitive of, what's going on. Hey, Dad, like, why do we do this? Why do we do that? And that's what you want. You want a natural curiosity. You want somebody to, bring it up on their own, but also foster it enough where they have the resources to get to that point to ask a good question. And then confirmation is one of the sacraments as a Catholic. And so this is where you take the steps as your adult life and say, I acknowledge that I'm going to go forth and I'm going to, your baptismal promises, you go into that next step of adulthood, and they anoint your head with the oils, and you go on a retreat and you go through the course and you go through a lot of the things and revamp for your adult life. And I was a late bloomer. I didn't know if I wanted to get confirmed, and then I was a senior in high school when I did it. Most people do it when, like, they're a freshman. So I was like the old man on the retreat. Like, everyone was like, "Oh, like, what are you gonna do?" And I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm like, they're like, "You can drive," and I'm like, "You guys can't." So I was like, "Wow, damn. Yeah, I am the old man." But it was truly, a beautiful experience, and really just, growing up, I didn't quite understand it as a kid. But I'm glad that I had, a man like my father to just set the standard and just continue to go and stay consistent. Because, consistency really is, like we talked about earlier, like you can't get past 3, on your episodes.
Come on.
Yeah, 20.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't take 3 weeks. It didn't take 30 weeks. It probably took, well over, a few years to get to like a point of like, all right, like I'm understanding and I get it. It's not going to happen overnight. But I'd say that the consistency of my own father to show me the way, it introduced me to ask more questions and then find my own perspective. Because there are things that I don't agree with, but it's because I found my own voice and my dad fostered such a learning and welcoming environment that I was able to go into that myself.
Why there's a ton of good Bible verses out there. I'm not a Christian, but I was raised Christian, and there is just some good practical advice in there. Like there's just some good shit. You could have tattooed anything on your arm. Why'd you choose Jesus Wept specifically?
So Jesus Wept, it's the shortest verse in the Bible, and Jesus is 100% man, 100% God. And I would say a lot of people see him as, well, we probably see him more godly than we do as a man because he's not physically here on earth in the body. He's with us in the Holy Spirit. So Jesus wept to me in one way. It's like, it's okay to be a man. It's okay to cry because it's a natural human response. You don't have to have toxic masculinity. You can let emotions flow the same way Jesus did. That's why we have them, is to experience things in their fullest and then to let them go to the Father and then carry on with your life as you should. But also just to have such a powerful message in 2 words, and I was looking, for something that was very impactful for me, and it's to show that Jesus is, he is 100% God, he's 100% man, and he was just like us, eating, drinking, walking around earth, just without sin. And so for me, it's a very powerful thing that's very thought-provoking in just 2 words. I also have Psalms 23:4, even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I should fear no evil, for your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I also have John 14:27 on my thigh here as well.
Let me see that one real quick. Move your hand.
It's peace I leave you.
That one's sick. I like how did you come up with that design specifically, or did the artist?
I did, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got all 3 of those in New York, actually. And then I have trust God on the top of my right foot. All my tattoos are on my right side. They're all religious and family based. And it's kind of my walk through life, really, because the top is the gates to heaven, and then down here is a map over the kind of the Gulf of Mexico area, because this is where I'm from. I'm from like the south of the United States. This is the compass I got when I got confirmed, and it says, "May your faith always guide you." And then in order to get from earth to heaven, you have to go through him. And so hence the dove, which is what personifies Jesus, and then the Jesus wept, of course. And then my middle name is Maverick, is the name given to me by my father that you heard in the intro. And then I have a lion with blue eyes, because my mom's favorite Bible story is the lion and the lamb. The lion is the protector of the lamb. And so my mom being the lion, and then me being the lamb, but also the Lamb of God. So there's a lot of biblical things, and then my dad's native side, I have a piece honoring that. It's called The End of the Trail. It's actually a beautiful sculpture and painting, and I have that on my chest.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the toxic masculinity and crying and whatnot.
Yeah.
Probably 2 of my, not to say that good things will not happen in the rest of 2025, but back on January 29th, there is something that I was struggling with that I'm not ready to talk about publicly yet,
For sure.
But I went to my best friend about it. And as I was venting to him, I just, as you've probably experienced, sometimes you just break down, you just start crying in the moment. Mm-hmm. And then that was a night I will remember forever, just because of what we talked about and how much of a support system he was. But then that same friend came to me about 2 Fridays ago, and he was venting about something that he was walking through. And I never thought I would see him cry, but dude, he broke down, and I just told him to stand up. We were both sitting on the couch. I gave him a big old hug, and he just cried into my chest. And it was such a fucking, such a cool moment. You know,
it really is.
Like that upgraded our friendship to a level that I wasn't anticipating. And it's so cool to be able to be transparent with people and get rid of the facade for a minute and be like, listen, I fucked up big time. And just to be able to cry about it and just listen to him talk through the situation. It's not my business to share, but it's been a very special year being able to share those moments with him.
Clientele.
Oh, dude, thank you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's truly amazing because, you know, like you said, it's not a typical response that a lot of people share with one another, especially like two men. Yeah. You know, a lot of times you're not sitting around like, you know, like just crying. It's usually
pretty
laughing.
rare for us.
It's usually laughing. It's usually just like, you know, a good time, you know, have some beers with the buddies and, you know, we're playing darts outside. But, you know, it's special moments like that you don't forget. And, you know, I think it goes back to a lot of what we've kind of already talked about, which is, you know, creating like, you know, a welcoming environment and being able to, you know, be open with people and to acknowledge that you've messed up. But if you went back and erased that, you wouldn't have experienced that memory. Yeah. And I think I read something earlier and it was like, if this was the last straw that broke you, that brought you to God, well, you should rejoice and be happy that happened because it brought you to something better. If, you know, that last experience of you doing something, whether it be, you know, drug related or alcohol related or something that's like a bad vice that you have fallen for because it helps you, you know, it could be like, again, for me, it was showing that I cared too much. And then I was doing it for the wrong reason. I was doing things because I wanted other people to see it. Yeah. And so then it was a detriment to myself because I didn't do anything for myself. I only did it for other people or for a certain response. But when you figure that out and you go to that point, well, then now the real building begins because you've stripped everything away and now you just have the foundation. Now let's build a house. Yeah.
I have a friend in California who's part of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I know that people have different opinions on the program, whatever. But that was something he told me is that the people who stick around in the rooms are typically the ones who hit rock bottom because you have some people who go to AA because maybe they got a DUI and the courts are telling them to go. He's like, those people they leave. They go to their minimum amount of meetings. We never see them again. Yeah. You have other people who maybe they did something stupid while they were drinking and they're having this big moment of regret. So they show up, they stick around for a month, maybe even a year, 2 years, they disappear. But he's like, the people who stick around who have like 14 years of sobriety, 20 years of sobriety, and they are doing the program, they're reading the book, they have their sponsor, they have their sponsees. It's because they hit this rock bottom moment where they had this realization that if I don't change something, I will potentially do something that could kill me, or life is just, I've lost everything and I need some sort of solution. They wandered in the rooms of AA and now here they are with 10 years of sobriety under their belt. And it's a pretty cool concept, man. I generally like what AA is doing for the people that hit a rock bottom and maybe they don't like religion, so they feel like they can't, I'm putting in quotes, go there, but then they find this other program that is a solution for them, and now they're fucking rocking it at life, dude. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say one of the greatest disservices you can do to humanity is to have a gift like that and not share it. And so if you have a bad experience and you just keep it to yourself because you're like, oh, I've done really well, I'm good to go, and then you just proceed with life, it's like, well, how do you know that somebody's not gonna, you know, take, you know, a really good appreciation to that? When I broke my foot my junior spring, I didn't know at the time I wasn't going to be able to play football anymore. But I was, instead of being an athlete, I was kind of like quality control. So I would, you know, be the signaler on the sideline. So I would call the plays, and you know, I'd still be with the team. And I knew a lot of guys would get hurt, and they'd be in the training room, and you know, it was always different. But I knew some guys that were like, oh, I'm probably not going to play anymore. I'm now low on the depth chart. It's probably not for me anymore. But I knew, whether I did or not, I would tell myself, I know that somebody's life is better with me here at practice. And I had to tell myself that a lot because nobody would just come up to me and say, hey, Jack, I'm glad you're here. You know, that goes a long way. It's like, hey, man, like you being here makes me feel better. And I had to tell myself that enough before I actually heard it from somebody, because you don't want to go around telling people like, hey, this is what I need. Can you say it? Because then it's not genuine, you know? It's like, we've all had those relationships. I just need you to know how I feel. And it's like, we've never experienced this situation before.
I wonder how many of your friends and family are going to listen to this episode, and now every time you show up at their house, they're going to open with, "Brother, I'm so glad you're here today."
Glad you made it. So glad you're here. So glad that you've ventured this way. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think it. I mean, a lot of people can have a welcoming environment in many different shapes and forms. Some people think that's solitude. Some people think that's a quiet room with other people there. Some people think it's the gym. Some people think it's the library. Some people think it's just the grocery store. But whatever it is that makes you happy, that you're not, endangering other people or yourself, go for it. Life is too short to not do that. And someday you're going to wake up and you're going to say, man, I only probably have 2 more years to live. And then it's like, well, what are you going to do now? Do you want to spend the rest of your life, being an asshole and, being like, oh, everything's wrong and I don't have this, I don't have that. Well, I know that somebody who's, done well for himself and that, is younger and I would say has what most people would want, like a stable job, a nice place to live, and, not have to worry about your finances. It's like, okay, what happens when you get to that point? You're always going to want something more. Would I like, a nicer place? Sure. Would I like a faster car? Absolutely. Would I like a different, environment well, sure. But why not take what you have now and then just continue to progress it rather than say, oh, I've reached a good point of, complacency.
Yeah. We will circle back to this, but one thing I wanted to ask you, because I recently, 2 months ago, went to Manhattan for myself. I've never been before.
Yeah, Big Apple,
dude,
yeah.
It was so fun.
Yeah,
Even just the flight in, I usually shoot for an aisle seat, just because I get anxious flying on planes, and if I have easy access to the bathroom without having to step over giant human beings like yourself,
Man,
it's
it's
a whole thing. But on that trip, I was like, I want a window seat, because when we're flying into the city, I want to be able to look at what I'm flying into.
What airport did you fly into?
I'm pretty sure JFK.
JFK. I've always LaGuardia through and through, but JFK, not a bad spot. You see the city as you come in. It's really nice. Yeah. How was the subway?
It was fun.
Yeah.
I saw a couple rats, not on the subway, but in the city. When we were walking, we being my sister and I, she lives there. We saw some rats. We went to Broadway. We went to Little Italy, got some pizza.
Yep.
We went to the Met.
Did you guys go on Sunday when it was free?
I think we went on a Saturday because it's my second day in town. Yeah, it was a Saturday. Yeah.
I think on Sundays, it's like whatever you want to donate, to get in. I think it's free. I don't know if it was that specific Sunday, but that's what I remembered. I had a student ID, so I could go for free.
I think they changed it. And it's 7 days a week now.
Yeah.
For people that live there, because my sister,
yeah.
she got us in for free.
Yeah.
And just
honestly, it's beautiful. I've gone a few times. The Brooklyn Bridge. I've been on top of the Rock, Rockefeller Center. The World One Trade Center, the 9/11 Memorial, Empire State Building. It's always nice, though. I prefer top of the Rock because then you can see Central Park, you can see everything. If you're on the Empire State Building, you can't take a picture of it. So if you want to take a picture of it, you have to admire it from a distance.
Yes.
But yeah, seeing the city from those 3 perspectives, perfect. But yeah, I accidentally kicked a rat one time. I was walking down, I think it was 114. I was walking from Broadway to Amsterdam, and I'm just going to go hang out with one of my buddies. And I'm rocking flip-flops because I'm cool. And this, the big rat from Ratatouille, Remy's brother, that big old thing ran across, because they always walk in straight lines. The rats are very systematic, in terms of how they don't go diagonal. They'll always go in straight lines from point A to point B. And this bad boy just darts across. And I kicked him. And it wasn't I swing my leg and it was oh, what was that? It was a swing and stop. And my leg kind of hindered. Yep. And I was that was a thick, that was a big rat. And he makes a little noise and scurries away. But I was that is disgusting.
Did you feel a little bad?
I mean, well, yeah. Because, he was just going about his day. He didn't wake up that morning and be
prepared to get kicked.
Yeah, but I was kind of that's an interesting story. But yeah, I've seen. Obviously it's New York. Rats. I had mice in my dorm room. Yeah, I was I had to put the traps up and everything. They got into some protein bars. Do not recommend.
Yeah, we my buddy Tyler he's an artist for The Broken View. They just released a new music video. Go check it out on YouTube. It's a remix, a remaster of Every Breath You Take. It's fantastic. Go watch it, support them, follow them on Instagram, all that good shit. He had a mouse in his studio a couple weeks ago, and I was hanging out with him, and we were literally, there's one place where it could have entered and exit, and we just sat on the ground and talked for probably the better part of about 90 minutes waiting for this mouse to come out so we could trap it because he was so OCD about getting it out of there, which understandable. It could have chewed his wires or just had some babies. We got it.
Nice.
Anyways, back to Manhattan. Why'd you choose to go there? Lots of universities all over the United States. I felt like you chose a great one. You got to live in the city for a couple years. How did that happen?
So I wanted to play football in college, and they offered me. And so that was one of the things. So with recruiting at the time, obviously so much has changed since, NIL and things of that nature. But I had some smaller, D1s. I had some, Division 2s, Division 3s, reach out. And a lot of times the smaller schools will reach out early to try to get you on the radar and say, like, hey, like, we were there first. We want to offer you a package. And some of those schools were the Ivy League schools. So, I got the offer from like Cornell. I got Columbia. I had talked to Tufts for a little bit. I had Trinity, D3 down in San Antonio. So I had a couple different, I had the preferred walk-on at SMU, but it's different from an actual, offer because preferred walk-on is like, hey, we want you here, but we can't offer you a scholarship quite yet. You can work for one. But at the time, looking at it, I was like, I have a school that wants to recruit me from me, and it's an Ivy League school. I would be silly not to take it. And, I'd looked at all the other, Ivy Leagues, and I liked the atmosphere. I liked what Columbia had to offer, and I wanted to go make a difference. And so I went to Columbia.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It was cool. It was definitely a big change walking around Manhattan rather than, the mean streets of Grapevine. It's a suburb of Dallas. So it's not the mean street, but it was definitely a big difference. And I pushed myself out of my comfort zone at, 19, 18. And, I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When you, to backtrack a little bit, and then we'll go back to your college years for a minute. When you graduated high school, I feel like the question that all of us 17, 18, 19-year-olds have to make is like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm about to go to school. I have to choose a major. I have to decide right now what I'm going to do for the next 50-something years.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Did you feel like you had an answer to that question, or were you sort of just as lost as most of us feel?
I thought I did, and I think because I thought I did, and then it didn't work out, I ended up becoming even more lost.
Sorry.
No, it's extremely true, because I had thought it's always easy to sit here and think about all these things that you can do and what you're going to do, and then when you actually have to do it, it's like, well, that's quite a bit of work. And I had dreams of becoming a doctor. I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. For the longest time, I wanted to be an ophthalmologist. I wanted to be an eye doctor because I wear one contact, and I had what's called amblyopia as a child, and that's child lazy eye. So I would wear an eye patch on my right eye and force myself to use my left eye, and I would patch for 8 hours a day whenever I was a kid. And I think that's primarily why I'm left-handed when I golf and I play baseball. Like when I bat, I'm right-handed, but I think it's because my right eye could see the ball coming in as a pitcher. And so naturally that motion carried over into golf. So I was always interested in math and science more than reading, as every young, kid, ADHD, or I just didn't give two shits about Susie and her dog. like, Jack, what'd you see in this? And I'm just like the picture's kind of weird. Like, what's the artist got going on? They're like, no, Jack, follow the literature. And I'm like, I am. I can't focus on what they're saying because why is the dog colored like that? And they're like, Jack, that's not the point. So I, growing up, I was tested for ADHD. I don't have it. I think we all do. We just bounce. But
based off how this conversation is going, I'm sorry. That was so mean.
No. It's fair. No. You're good. You're good. I get it all the time. I bounce I try to use as few words as possible. It's not happening right now. But whenever I tell a story, I try to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. But again, I learned that from my mom. I don't tell stories, I'd say systematically sometimes, because I always want the person to feel like they were actually there. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I end up doing too much. But I wanted to be a doctor, ophthalmologist, orthopedic surgeon. So I got to scrub in on, knee surgeries. Like we knew some family friends that had doctors that they knew, and they're like, yeah, Jack can come watch a knee surgery. So I was there, and I got to wear the scrubs and stand there, not do anything, of course, but just stand there and watch it all go down. And then always gravitated towards science. Loved chemistry, really wanted to go into that. And then when it was come time to pick my my trajectory, in college, you actually don't pick your major at my university. You don't pick it till your sophomore year. I don't know if that's standard, but I didn't have to pick my major until then. And so you can, take like an introductory course, to finance, if you want to go the financial route, or if you want to go into sociology, you can take the intro course and you say, oh, is this something that I like? Oh, okay, now I want to pivot. But you got like 2 or 3 shots to figure out like, oh, I think I could do this. Well, I wanted to do biology and pre-med. And so if that's the case, you have to go through like, all these recommended courses so you can be prepared for the MCAT and then, so on. But I realized that I just wanted to be a doctor because that's what smart people do. And I was always said like, Jack, you're smart. And I was like, I'm smart. I don't like reading. So lawyers out, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And then I'm like a doctor. I'm like a doctor is somebody who's in surgery, a dentist is also a doctor. And then ophthalmology, because of my amblyopia, I wouldn't be able to like see like the lasers. My 3D is not the best. So chances are I would not, flourish in that kind of environment. So because of my eyesight, I probably wouldn't be able to go into ophthalmology like I'd want to. And I didn't want to do the research route. I'd want to help people. That was my biggest thing, is I wanted to help people. And so that's where orthopedics kind of came in. I might be able to be tied with sports. And then anesthesia, I think, was like, the chemistry working into it. I thought it was like a very, interesting field. But in order to get there was very, very tough. And I did Gen Chem as a freshman. It was fine. Loved chemistry lab in the college environment. It was great. And then COVID happened. So I had to go home, and I took biology on Zoom, and I got a C in bio. It was my first time ever getting a C in all of my education.
Crushed.
It was terrible. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to continue to do it. And then the first test of the second semester, again, completely Zoom, failed the first test. And I dropped the class. And I was like, I'm having, like, I don't even know what to do now. I still was going to see it through. I took organic chemistry over the summer. We met 4 times a day. Or not 4 times, 4 times a week. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's a lot of classes.
Misspoke. We met 4 times a week for a 4-hour class. Monday through Thursday, it was 4 hours. It's 3-hour lecture, and then it was a 1-hour recitation. So it was a small group discussion. So everything that you talk about, you didn't learn. And so I was on campus, but it was still like COVID. So I was taking classes in my dorm with the computer open on campus. And then I had an iPad where I had to screen record my iPad. I had to have the Zoom thing up so they could watch me take the test. I had to submit my recording and my test, and then close out of my computer in a very systematic way. Otherwise, they would void my test. And so I had to do that, and I completed with a fine grade. I got 2 B minuses in my orgo class. I did that over the summer. And then I was like, I don't want to do this. Because at the same time, I also took my intro to psychology. Because I was originally a biology degree with pre-med. And then I was like, I'm just going to switch to just full psychology. Because pre-med is not a major. Pre-med is an addition to what you're already doing. And so pre-med, it's like applying to another school again. So if you want to get, in the pre-med, you could say, oh, I was a journalist. Journalism was my major, but I also did pre-med. Medical schools like that because it shows variety. I have a physics degree, but I also pre-med. Physics was just the degree I liked, but I still did all the curriculum. I still took Gen Chem. I took Orgo, took Bio, took Physics, took Biochem, did all the corresponding labs, and I also have lab work. But I was also, a creative writer. I have a degree in creative writing. Medical schools would be like, that's awesome. Go take the MCAT. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm a psychology major, and then, time to graduate, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell I want to do. So I sent out like 300 job applications and landed on a place in Houston, and it was fine. It just wasn't for me. It was a great learning experience because I didn't have any internships over the summers because I was playing football. I was recovering from my injury, and all my buddies are working at Bank of America and Barclays and Deloitte. And I'm like, dude, those are just big names. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but they're all finance guys. Like, I don't want to do finance. I don't want to be an analyst. And so I just was like, what would take me? And I've 300 applications sent out, 20 of them get back to me. 7 of them say no, 5 of them say we want to do the interview. And then the rest are we want to do the interview and move on. So, of the people who got back to me, I may have gotten 5 offers. And, that just goes to show you're gonna have to stick your neck out there a lot if you're gonna ever continue. So don't be discouraged when it doesn't go your way right off the bat, because, there could be a blessing in disguise. If I didn't go to Houston and take that job and then look for a new job and then be able to drive from Houston to Austin, I would not have the job I have now because I was able to meet him in person. And then, I got into sales. You got a bug in here now.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be part of the podcast.
No, I'm going to kill that bug.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a long-winded way. But yeah, I was lost for a while because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, I just need to do something. I don't want to just be sitting around and just be like, I don't have a job. I graduated from Columbia because you have like this, expectation from people. It's like, oh, you Ivy League school, like, shouldn't you be like, a doctor? Shouldn't you be a lawyer? Shouldn't you be like in finance? Shouldn't you be like, having a 6-figure job like right out of college? And it's just like, well, I don't know what I want to do yet. And they're like, figure it out. It's like, how?
All right, I have like 3 follow-up questions for you. First off, hopefully I say this right, amblyopia?
Yeah, amblyopia.
It's almost completely gone, right? If you hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have noticed. But
It's
you
a
said
little-
it's your right eye is
My right eye is fine. My left eye, you'll notice that the eyelid's a little lower. So I
barely.
Yeah. I have been told that because I worked it up. So specifically, when your cells in your eye, like, because your occipital lobe is in the back of your head. That's what handles all eyesight. And so if you ever just slap the back of your head and your eyes stay open and you see black for a second, that's because you're jarring the entire like process.
You want to test this? You can
what's up?
slap the back of my head, and then I'll slap yours, and then we'll take some smelling salts.
No, so I have them in my bag, actually.
I do too. Sorry, continue.
No, you're good. But yeah, so what would happen is my eye would get tired and it would start to shut off. So all the cells, like, basically imagine like unplugging a TV. And so it would just be black. And so I wouldn't be able to see out of my left eye. So slowly my brain was turning off my eye. And in order to force it to work, you had to cover the right eye because it was just slowly going to that one. And so that's why I would wear the eye patch. And then I got into contacts. I've been wearing contacts since I was like 8. And so I'm 24. So, majority of my life, over 16 years of wearing contacts. And I have no issues. I don't sleep in them. Please don't sleep in your contacts. People say you can. I'm like, I don't. But yeah. I did eye therapy for a little bit as well to see if I could get better at that. And one of the things that they would do, which was very impressive to me, is obviously you have a dominant eye. Like, if you hold your finger out in front of you and you blink, you'll notice which one changes. And so the eye that like you see the same picture all the time and it doesn't move, I'm closing my left eye and my finger's here. But if I close my right eye, it's a different perspective because I'm right eye dominant. And so figuring that out, I would wear red-green glasses, like a 3D book in essence, and I would have like red lens here, green lens here, and the opposite in front of me. And so as I would be reading on the green side, my right eye is crossed to that side, and you can only see like green through green, but then you can only see red through red. So if then I'm crossing my eyes over here to look through it, the page would go black because my eye would get tired. And so I had to I had to continue to like work it out. Like the same way, like if you can't like run 2 miles, we'll start with doing like a half mile. And so I would have to like slowly like, like really focus. And like, I'd have to like, not just focus like mentally on what I'm reading to obtain it, but I would have to focus on like physically, like stop being tired, like push through a little bit more. But it's weird because you're doing that between the ears, you're not doing it in your brain. You're actually doing it with your eyes. So like you had to force yourself to like, actually like keep your eyes on, which is a weird thing to explain if you've never experienced it. But yeah, amblyopia, child lazy eye. And then because of how much I patched and I did everything, I got to a developmental age where my eye will never turn off again. So like I'll never have to worry about like my eye going like bad.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But I do have I'm farsighted, and so I can't have LASIK done because there's not enough cornea there. So if you're nearsighted, you have too much cornea, so they'll take the laser and they'll shave it down. That's why you can see. But for being farsighted, you don't have enough. So they need to go in and put an artificial lens behind your actual like clear of your eye, and that's $8,000 to $10,000 like per eye. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't want the invasive surgery, but I'll continue contacts and then glasses. So it's funny, I don't have my glasses here. I have sunglasses, but my left lens is like a thick boy. Like it's +4, and when you hold it out, like this eye is like so zoomed in, and this is just a piece of glass. So I wear one contact. Yeah.
One other random story for you when you were talking about reading when you were a kid. I recently found out that there is a children's book that I think was big in Germany, and the story is about a possum who wakes up with a pile of poop on his head.
What?
Have you heard about this children's book?
No.
So the whole book, every page, he's going up to different animals. So he walks up to like an elephant and he's like, did you poop on my head last night? And the elephant is like, no, I would never do that to you, possum. Of course I didn't poop on your head last night. And then you flip the page and he walks up to a giraffe and he's like, did you poop on my head? And the giraffe is like, of course not, possum. I'm your friend.
Yeah.
Why would I poop on? Anyways, I almost wanted to buy the book just because I think it'd be a wild thing to have on my bookshelf. I didn't.
Yeah.
But I was just
Is
like,
it in
what?
German?
What is the story? Like, why would someone think of a children's book that's about a possum trying to figure out who pooped on his head while he was sleeping?
Is it himself because he's curled up?
I don't know how the story ends.
Yeah, you're gonna bring that up and then not have the ending.
I'm a worst podcast host on planet Earth.
Jamie, if you can pull that up real quick.
I wish.
Oh.
Okay, one thing I was really curious to ask you about, because I love us human beings. I love how we worked, why we do what we do, everything about us. I think we're fascinating creatures. And one thing that you had talked about on your form or on the phone or at some point is learning about how brains interact with their surroundings.
Oh yeah.
Can we riff on this for a minute?
For sure. What? Yeah, I mean, is that just you want to go off of that?
Or bring up something else?
Yeah. No, I would say. I mean, in a nutshell, how like the brain like responds to like an environment. Like we know that one like happy-go-lucky person, right? Like nothing can break their stride. You know, like they're having people over, and you know, like the casserole, you know, falls out of the oven. You know, everyone's breaking glasses. You know, there's not enough ice. You know, like there's not enough chairs. Like the music's not loud enough. It's just a shit show. But that person who like put it on is like, I'm just so happy that everyone's here, and like I'm so glad that we could. And it like it's that welcoming environment of like, is this person like going crazy? Because there's so many things that have gone wrong, but they're like, oh, like I'm just so glad that everyone's here together. And it's a complete shit show. And then we also know the time where like, you know, you come home and everything is perfect, but that same person that's like hosting is like, oh gosh, like there's just so many things that are wrong, and like I forgot this and I forgot that, and you know that there might not be enough cups, and you're just like, the fact that like you've done everything, it like just goes to show like it's all right. Like everything is perfect and you're complaining and like you're spazzing out because you don't think it is, versus everything's going wrong and you're just like, oh, this is nice. So I would say it's a situation that you can look at the perspective differently. If you go out like tonight on a Saturday and your goal is to, you know, meet somebody that you want to go for coffee on the next day. And if you don't meet that person, you might think Saturday night was a failure because you had a goal in mind and you went out and it didn't happen. But if you take that same thought and say, my goal is to go out and do something that I can control, your attitude and your effort, those are two things you can control. So if you go out and you say, you know what, I'm going to have a positive attitude and I'm going to give, I usually get tired around 11, but I'm going to give good effort to, you know, to hang with my buddies and, you know, not be the buzzkill because I'm tired. And if you do that and everything's really good and you're just happy-go-lucky letting things happen, you know, oh, we didn't stay at the bar that we wanted to long enough, or like, oh, I took too long to get my drink, but you just let it flow, that might be an enjoyable night because you didn't put anything extra on it. And I think that's where you have the perspective. When you put too much things on what it's supposed to be and it's not fulfilling, well, then you're like, well, this feels like a waste of time. It feels like a failure. It's like today, like we didn't know what to expect,
right,
you know, at the podcast. But if you came in like, this is going to be the make or break show, like I have to have a good feeling about it, and then it doesn't happen, you're like, oh, okay, well now my feelings are wrong. You know, did I have the wrong like interpretation of it? Did I do something wrong? You start second guessing, and it snowballs in a negative way. You can stop that, of course, but once you build that momentum in a negative fashion, it's harder to stop because then you just keep piling on shit. But when you take it as, well, I can't control who clicks on this video. The only thing I can control is, well, you know, my studio's nice and, you know, I have good quality and, you know, our conversations, good or bad, it's open to interpretation. But I'm going to put it out there and it's going to be in a very organized fashion where it's easy for I'm going to put in the effort. And my attitude is going to be like, I really enjoy what I do. If you do those two things, you'll feel accomplished, regardless of if you're like successful financially or not based on it. Like why do you do it? Is it because you love to do it or because you want something out of it? And so that's where I think the perspective of the matter is very, very important.
I love this, man. And one thing I'll tell you is that I have this delusional belief that every podcast we record is made for one person. And that's why I don't I love the website that I publish the episodes through because I was actually able to tell them early on in the journey, I don't want to know how many people follow the podcast. Can you turn this off? So I literally can't see the numbers. And they were like, we actually love it when we get that request. We'll happily do that to you or for you. But I have this crazy belief that there's someone out there, maybe it's a kid who's in college and he or she feels just completely lost, and they're going to tune into your episode and have this realization that like, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Jack survived. Jack's thriving. I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
And my end goal for this podcast is that one day these people start emailing me and they're like, I was the person that needed to hear Jack's episode. I haven't got that email yet.
Well,
I'm just anxiously waiting for it to hit my inbox where they're like, I fucking love that episode. I needed it more than anything. Thank you.
Of course.
But I feel like that's to your point, like it's been a good perspective for me because it keeps me from obsessing about, well, did this episode get 1,000 views, 10 views? Did this one bomb? Did this one go viral?
Yeah.
Instead, it's just like, it doesn't really matter because as long as we reach that one person, that's all that I'm doing this for.
Yeah. And so long as you keep that, you'll feel better. You know, like it always feel like you're doing it with a purpose. And that one person could also be yourself.
Yeah.
Like, even if this wasn't published, like, I feel like we've gotten a lot of good things out of this. Like, I was once told if you can laugh, cry, and contemplate all in a single day, you've done everything you need to. Like, in that single day, you've used the day to its fullest. If that's even before noon or just the entire day, if you've done those things, you do more than what most people do in like a month. Most people aren't crying, very often. Most people, I would say, don't laugh as much as they should. And I mean, I know I've talked about a lot of the positive things, but obviously it's still tough. I'm a creature of habit. I like being busy. I like going to work and working out and going home and saying, oh, okay, I have 2 hours before I need to go to bed and I need to, I need to shower and I need to make dinner and then I can relax for a little bit. And like, I'm very segmented on my time. It's just like being a student athlete. Like, this is my time to study. I have to study. Yeah. It's not like most kids, classes are done. I got 8 hours the rest of the day. I can do whatever I want and then study later. No, this is the time I have and I got to do it now. And, with that, on the days where I don't have things going on, like Sunday, I'll get up and go to mass, whether I go to 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. If I don't have anything to do and I'm alone in my thoughts, sometimes I overthink. It's not always perfect. Like, I'll be sitting there on my couch and be like, man, dude, like, I'm not doing enough. But then you have to remind yourself, like, all right, like, don't think like that. Don't talk like that. Use this time to relax. Tons of my buddies that go to the gym 6-7 times a week, you need to have your rest.
No.
But
sorry.
I was waiting for you to be like, no, that makes sense. And then you didn't say it. And I was just like, what do you mean by that?
Rest days.
But honestly, it's true. Like, you truly need to let yourself recover. But it's a stigma when you start to see it in the wrong perspective of, it's not a rest day so I can let my body recover. I'm taking the day off and I'm not doing well. It's like, no. You're doing a lot for yourself by resting.
Yeah.
By going to bed early, you're actually helping your body. But it's flipped. It's seen as a bad thing because you're like, well, I should be working out. I should be lifting weights. It's like, well, no, actually, if you take this rest day, you'll do better in the gym tomorrow, which is weird for people who continuously just go to the gym every single day.
For me, the hardest part about rest days is if you haven't found this out just through how I've acted this morning, I love being around people.
Oh yeah,
and so
gregarious.
50% of me going to the gym is just, who am I going to see? Is Keaton going to be in here?
Yeah.
Is Jack going to be in here? Am I going to bump into Tyler? Am I going to bump into One-Eyed Will? Who do I get to?
One-Eyed Will is crazy.
Who do I get to? So that's the biggest thing for me. And so sometimes even on like my quote unquote rest days, I don't do cardio. I don't believe in that word. I don't know what it means. I don't think it does anything good for your body. It's a terrible thing to do. But sometimes on my rest days, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym anyways. I'm going to do 20 minutes on the Stairmaster. I'm going to sit in the sauna. I'm going to do some low back exercises and some core workouts.
Yeah.
Just so I have an excuse to go be around my people.
For sure. I even tell my buddies the same thing. I had a buddy who got in a motorcycle accident not too long ago, and he broke both wrists. And I'm like,
oh, man.
Yeah.
How's he doing? Is he okay?
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely like rough because, it's a big shock to the system. But I told him, I said, hey, man, I still want you to come just hang out. Don't just be like, I can't do, like, what am I going to do, legs? And I'm like, yeah, you're going to get really freaking good at legs. When I broke my foot, I would crutch into the gym. There were stairs involved, so I had to kind of, deal with that. But, my incline bench was awesome because it's all I could do. And I remember one time, like, I like crutched over to a guy and I was like, hey man, I was like, how many more sets do you got? And he just like turned around and he was like, that is such inspiration to me. And I was like, that's awesome. How many more sets do you have?
Thank you. Answer the question.
Because I'm going to have to sit down here for too long. But yeah, no, it's a very, when you have a gym, like that's a good environment, you know, like same thing with the football comment earlier. Like, I'm here at practice. I want to say that somebody's life is better because I'm here. That, you know, that could be very egotistical. I'd be telling myself lies, but it helps me, and it's a positive thing. So I'm gonna tell myself that. If I go to the gym Monday through Friday at the same time, I feel people like consistency. So if I show up and they're like, "Yep, there's Jack. You know, he's showing up. You know, 6:07,
doing his backflips,
right on time." Well, I don't do those every day. I'm getting kind of old. But when
oh my god, shut your mouth.
Everyone that I say I'm getting old to, they always like they're like, you're not getting old. I got young energy. I'm gonna act this way when I'm like 33. Like I hope so. But
if I still know you and you aren't, I'll call you out.
You'll call me out.
I'll be like, hey, where's the Jack?
He's
love?
a bum now. Look at him. Who have you become? Oh, but yeah, I think that, you know, like constantly showing up and having a community. Like, again, I go to Lift ATX. You know, I love it. It's a fantastic community, and part of their thing is strength and community and strength. And they started in 2020, you know, right around the COVID time. And it's an indoor-outdoor gym, and it might be very intimidating and daunting at first, but it truly is, you know, a really, really good group of people. They do a lot of community work, you know, and the equipment is, you know, it's clean, you know, indoor, outdoor, you know, it's as clean as it can be because the elements are harsh on everything. But really, you know, you don't go because it's like, oh, this has like, you know, the best, you know, like oiled machine ever. And like, it's always so smooth. Like, no, you go there because you enjoy it. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to go power lift in the garage, you know, down the way because I know Zach and Derek are going to be there. Yeah. And I'm going to go hang out with them. I'm going to jump in with their lift, and then everyone's screaming, everyone's having a good time. You know, I'm not saying that Planet Fitness doesn't have that, but you might go to a different environment where people like to be more closed off. This is my relaxation time. This is my meditation, like, for the day. I'm gonna go walk on the treadmill and then I'm gonna do some stretching. If that's you, that's you. Like that's not a bad thing. But I'd say it's finding that community that you want to be a part of is what's helpful, because as human beings, we want to be around other people.
Yes.
If you are secluded, you know, I think you're forcing yourself into that environment because naturally life is too hard. We should lean on each other. To that extent is up to you as the person to decide. But yeah, no, to your point, it's very, very important for us to be around other people and have a sense of belonging. You know, whether you tell yourself that and then it actually becomes that, or the reverse of that happens. People then tell you, hey man, like, you know, you matter. I'm glad you're here.
Hey Jack.
Hey man.
I'm really glad you're here.
I'm
What does gregarious mean? I just realized, I was like, he called me a word and I don't know what it...
it's exactly what you said. You like to be around other people.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. It's
one of those, I am gregarious.
Yeah, I'm gregarious. Yeah. it's one of those 40-point Scrabble words.
Yeah. All right, one thing you've hinted on several times, and I
shorts
have to
keep riding up. Good God.
Well, yeah, dude, look at your legs. I mean, you need 3XL shorts for those things.
No,
are you comfortable being that tall? How is this being this tall? That was not the question I was going to ask.
No, you're good.
But...
it's actually funny. So I had a big growth spurt from like middle school to high school where I grew like 4 to 6 inches like in like a year. And I was growing so fast that I had what's called severs, which is because of how much activity you're doing on the day-to-day, that the ligaments in your heels are not able to keep up with how fast you're growing. And because as you grow, everything like stretches. And usually that takes it's a very minimal amount of time. It's a very minimal amount of growth over a long period of time. So your body's able to consistently just, you know, endure. Well, I had such bad pains in my heels because of the ligaments of my foot. Like I got football cleats at the beginning of the year. I had to trade them in by like mid-season because my foot didn't fit. My mom was like, there's no way in hell that happened. And I'm like, well, it happened. Academy took them back. And I got it. I went from like 11 to a 12. And I would get so upset because I'd walk into a room and I would miss the light switch.
Huh.
I was growing so fast that I would walk in and like tap it here usually. Like I'd bend my arm this much to just tap it, but really I'm getting taller, so now the light switch is down here. And so I'd like get in there and I was so like hard bent on, like very detail oriented. I mean, how I described the frickin' pictures You know, you can see like my thought process.
Uh-huh.
It was like, oh, this, and this. I know exactly what this is from. I know I can talk on it. Here it is. And I would get down on myself because I was a perfectionist. And I'm like, dude, I'm missing the light switches. And for a long time, like it was hard to find like clothes that fit. Like I still buy big and tall. Like I have like I have like a 33 waist. You know, I'm 6'4", 225. And I have a 32 waist, and I wear like a double XL shirt, and I wear like large shorts. So like I'm very like weird in my proportions, but like perfectly like a 34 length like pants. Nobody sells 32 34s. They don't. Like you go and you can't find. They don't sell them. If they're 34s, like I have a size 54 waist pair of pants just because I found them and I bought them, and they charged me extra because of how much denim it was in the pair of jeans. But it's hard. It's hard. Like I can't shop at the malls. Like I can like look at shirts and stuff, but nothing ever fits. And then on airplanes, I'd usually like to sit in the exit row because I got a little bit extra room. If the person in front of me reclines their chairs, it's like, hey, buddy, you help me out. The lady comes by with the drink carts bumping me because I'm broad shouldered as well, and I like the aisle seat too because I'll kick my feet out to the side depending on where I'm like which side of the plane I'm on. But anybody who walks by, my shoulder hangs over the seat, so I'm just constantly just like throughout the entire plane ride, I'm just getting bumped as like this dad is up walking his toddler around because they're stopped crying, and I'm like, dude, can you just walk up a few more rows because you're just shoulder checking me.
Yeah, I feel like some guys may look at you and be like, "Oh man, it'd be so cool to be that big. Maybe I'll go hang up from a pull-up bar for an hour, see if I can add an extra."
It's cool.
But from practical purposes, like there's some inconveniences.
No, it
with
sucks.
this.
Yeah, it sucks sometimes. Like getting in and out of the car, like it's hard. Like you swing that leg out and you gotta fall in and climb back out. Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough. Two things that really put it into perspective. I was actually at the dentist. And my sister was at the, going at the same time. It was like, bundle, everyone go, family outing, we're going to the dentist. My sister gets her teeth done.
I just learned so much about your family.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you save money on gas. Everyone just goes together. But she like walks in the room and she's like, I'm done. I'm gonna wait for you. Like, how much longer do you have? And she was like, whoa. She's like, your feet hang off the chair? And I'm like, is that not normal? And she's like, Jack, do you see the plastic that's like supposed to protect the bottom of like the chair so like your shoes don't like mess it up? I was like, well, yeah. She's like, that's not normal. So I'm like past the chair. Other thing too, we shared a bathroom in our childhood home, and I just like hollered over at her, and she was at her sink, and I was just like, I was like, do you ever just shampoo your hair and just look out the window? And she's like, and she like goes and she like stands in the shower, and the window's like up here, and she's like, do you think I can look out the gosh darn window? And I was like, I see. I said, no, I'll sometimes just like look out there. I'll just like lean on the wall, and I'm just like, shampooing my hair, and I'm just like, oh, the neighbors are home. Like, like there are certain things that it is nice to have. Like I definitely do get asked to like put the star on the Christmas tree. Like that's cool.
Yeah. The one thing you're allowed to do on the Christmas tree.
Not even that. My mom like she don't let anybody touch the damn Christmas tree. But there are nice things, obviously like sports and that. But then there are some things like joggers don't fit me. You know, like everyone's like, oh, joggers are supposed to like gather a little bit at the ankle. It's like, yeah, I look like I have capris on. Yeah. And as taller guys, it's like, oh, it's normalized. He's a taller guy. He's wearing like joggers, and I'm like, I feel silly. So. Yeah, that was a big hard caveat we just took.
I miss shampooing my hair. It's nice.
I didn't mean to bring up that soft topic.
Okay, the second reason I cried in this episode.
Look at your beard, though. Yeah. You see this facial hair? This has taken me like 2 years to grow this mustache.
You're like, I've never shaved. This is what I got.
I just trimmed up the chin hairs. I was like, I'm gonna be on camera. I was like, I gotta look somewhat presentable.
It looks very sharp.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I also have my father's eyebrows, so they're large and in charge.
All right, now the real question I was going to ask you.
Okay, let's do it.
You got injured in college.
Yes, I did.
You've alluded to it a couple times. What happened the day of the injury, and where was your mind set at the day of the injury?
It was the first practice of spring ball my junior year. So we had just gotten back from spring break. I want to say it was a Tuesday. It was the last play of the first practice. I was running a post curl on the left side of the field. The play goes away from me. And post curl, for those who don't know, the way we ran it was 7 steps with your right foot up on the line of scrimmage. And then your first step is your left foot, so that's 1. And so you count 1, 3, 5, 7, and then boom, you break it off, and then you take usually 3 more steps, and then you curl it up at the top. So bang, bang, and then curl it. And it was interesting because I broke my right foot. I had a Jones fracture. So the 5th metatarsal in your right foot, I cracked it. So if you've ever like cracked a pencil but not broken it all the way through, and there's just like that V cut where you can like bend it back and forth, that's what happened. I planted off my left foot on my 7th step, and I take my first step on my right foot, and I just felt this relieving pop on the bottom of my foot. And at first, my mind was racing because it was so relieving. It was such a relieving like feeling of like so much pressure, because I'd had some pain there for a little bit, but I never thought anything of it. And I felt it, and I just hobbled off the field. It was my last play. We usually like the 1s would go for 6 plays, the 2s would go for 6 plays, and then the 1s would go back in for 3, and then like the 3s would go in for 3. So like that's how we did like this like segment of practice. And it was the 6th play, and I felt it, and I just hopped. Left foot was my good foot, and I just hopped off the sideline, and I fell onto the ground, and I took off my helmet, and I just put my hands over my head, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, is my foot broken? I was like, because again, it was so relieving, like it was so good, and then I could feel like everything just start to like inflame a little bit, like my body was taking its like natural course of action with an injury. And our strength coach, who actually recently passed away, he came up to me and he's like, Ertz, what's wrong? And I was like, dude, it's my foot. This is my foot. I don't know. It's my foot. And then the trainers come over and they're like, oh shit. Because everyone thought like I was joking. Everyone's like, oh, like last day of practice, like, ooh, he's tired, like whatever. And I was like, no, dude, I was like, it's my foot. And I get put on the cart, shoulder pads and all, helmet, and then, go up to the training room, take an x-ray here, take an x-ray here, take an x-ray here. The side angle, you just see this big crack in my foot, and I'm like, what does that mean? I was like, does that mean my spring ball's over? And the trainer just looks at me and goes, yeah. And I was like, okay. I was like, what else does this mean? And it's just like, you're gonna have to have surgery. This is a Jones fracture. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I'm learning all this as it's happening. And then I think I had waited to call my dad till I got back in the locker room, and I was like, well, Dad, I said, I don't know if I'm going to play football anymore. And he's like, what do you mean? And I told him what happened. And so like the trainer's like, he's giving me a moment. I don't think I didn't cry at the time. Like I was just kind of like, I was angry, and I was frustrated because, we had a very talented receiver as a freshman, and him and I were battling, for the spot. And I didn't want to give up because like I really, really wanted to continue to play and, become a vital part of the offense, whether that would be, as the main guy, whether it be the secondary guy, whether it just be the guy who knew the playbook really well. I wanted to be competitive, and I really wanted to push him. And he's actually playing Kansas. He transferred from Columbia to Kansas. I think Jayhawks, what is their mascot? Kansas University of Kansas. It's not K-State. It's the other one. It's the blue one, the bird. And I have no doubt that he's a kick-ass wide receiver, and he flourished at Columbia, and I'm very happy to see him succeed. Bryson, if you ever see this, man, I'm proud of you. And he really pushed me, and he did it even as a freshman. And I'm the junior. I'm the guy that got tenure. And I didn't want to lose my spot, and then boom, break my foot, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do. So tell my dad. Remember, my coach comes in. He tells me, he's like, hey, like, I'm here for you. Just keep doing your thing. And I could come back from it, statistically. It's like a 3-month injury. But I kept having pain. So do you know anything about Jones fracture?
No.
So beyond the crack, so the way that they do surgery is they cut the side of your foot, and they take a drill, and they hollow out the bone, be it in the front of the crack and then behind the crack. And they do that to promote healing, and then they'll put a screw in. So I have a titanium screw in my foot, and then it will pull the bone together. And so it closes the gap, and then it promotes the healing, and so everything fuses together. Well, that's, 3-month recovery process. So then I start running, and I could tell my calf muscle was so weak. Like, it was so flabby, and I couldn't even like lift my whole body weight up with my calf.
Because you basically didn't use it for 90 days, right?
Could not. I mean, I could not. Couldn't walk on it. I could do leg extensions, of course, so my quad was still fine. My knees was okay, but like from like the knee down, it was so weak. And I kept having pain. and like I kept having like a little hitch in like my get up, and my right foot was just always like lagging behind. And I can't tell you how many X-rays I would go and get them every week. And I told my doctor, I was like, dude, like, he's our team doctor. I told him, I was like, I keep having pain, and I would get CAT scans, I'd get X-rays, and he goes, there is a hairline fracture on top of your fracture, like on top of your break. There's a hairline fracture, and I'm like, no, okay. I was like, well, what could happen? He goes, worst case, you re-break it and we have to take the screw out and redo surgery. Or he's like, you just let it heal. And I was like, because there's an 80% chance of it healing properly with the surgery, but there's a 50% chance of it healing properly by not doing anything. And I was like, well, I want to take the better chances, and it's going to be paid for, of course, because I got, hurt, playing football. And it just never healed like I wanted it to in the time frame that it did. So I ended up, like being a signaler and a play caller. And honestly, I look back and I think breaking my foot was the greatest thing that ever happened, because this might be like wishful thinking, but I'm the only one who it affects, because I'm the one who went through it, and I'm the one who has to carry the burden of not being able to play, like having football taken from me because of an injury. But I look at it as my body gave out before my heart did on something that I loved. So I knew that I never got to a point where I couldn't play anymore because I wasn't good enough. I had dreams to play as long as I could, and my body said, hey, like, your time's now. Like, this is as good as you can get, because we can't keep up with how good you are. And if I really wanted to, I could probably like try to get back into it, but I'm happy where I left it. I'm at peace with it. And because I don't ever feel like I missed out anything. I did everything to its fullest. And that's how I try to take things going forward. Like, whether it be a relationship that doesn't work out and you think to yourself, like, man, like, what if you ever leave something saying, well, I could have done this, well, then you didn't put everything into it. Yeah, it might not be advantageous to go back into that situation and try to rekindle it just to try that one thing. Take that information going forward and say, all right, well, I wish I got her flowers more. Well, maybe if I meet somebody again that I really enjoy, I want to make sure I get her flowers more. Take that going forward. Don't try to rekindle it and give her flowers and think that that's going to fix everything. But I try to, take that going forward and say, if something gives out before like my heart does, it's like, well, then I know that I've done everything that I can. So if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And so that's what I try to do. If you've done everything you can, you should go to bed fine and say, like, I've given it the old college try. So that's the situation with my foot. Everything's fine. I've been able to, play all the volleyball. Love me some sand volleyball. From Texas, we call it sand. We don't call it beach because we don't, Galveston's there, but, Galveston's, is it a beach? It's got dirty water, according to Charles Barkley.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I've been. It's all right. It's not been the same since the oil spill, but it's all right.
Before I ask you this next question, Jack Maverick Lee Ertz,
Yes,
you're
sir.
a very good storyteller.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is so much fun, and it's so easy to sit back and listen to you talk.
I appreciate that.
You should start a podcast and get
Me?
past. Yeah,
Get past 3?
you have to get to a minimum of 4. One of the things you put down on your form that I love this topic because it applies to me is how to be less concerned with what will be and more focused on what is. We've sort of been hovering around this topic the whole episode, even though we haven't tackled it directly. And dude, if there's someone who, I'm pointing to myself right now for those that are listening, if there is someone who sometimes allows himself to sit around and let the devil just turn my into into his playground for everything that could go wrong, every worst case scenario, it literally keeps me up at night. Sometimes it's awful. I will lie in bed and just stare at the ceiling and just imagine about like, how could tomorrow just go to absolute hell?
Yeah.
How do you get out of that mindset?
Well, for me, there's a Bible verse that says, "Don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will worry about itself." There's enough here in the now. And then I couple that with, if you have a bad day, it says, like, crying may endure for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. The power of just going to bed. Like, I would tell people, I said, if I ever get like all worked up and I just need somebody to like, give some. Honestly, it's not even advice. Sometimes you need to be reminded, because chances are the right thing to do. You've been around long enough, you understand. You might just need a different perspective. Your mom, Mom, you don't understand. And then, one-eyed Will might say it, and you'd be like, dude, like, that's a really good point. And then you might have a conversation with your mom, and she's like, that's exactly what I've been telling you, but you needed to hear it from somebody else. So I lean on, putting my faith in God and like trusting. But, for somebody who might not have like that same kind of like thought of like, man, like, what if everything goes wrong? Like, I'm thinking about tomorrow so much. It's like, well, you've gotten this far. It's going to be okay. How many situations have you gotten through where you're like, I don't know what to expect. I'm going on a first date, or I'm going into this job interview. I'm meeting this person for the first time. I get jittery. Well, don't think of it as a bad jitter. Think of it as a good jitter, because you've done this so many times. Think about your best friend. You guys started on a whim, but you probably started off as a kid where you had a childlike simplicity. That's also what the Bible says. Don't go into it with any like, preconceived notions. And when you constantly think about what's going to happen in the future, you might miss the blessing that you're about to step on right now. So take it one step at a time, because truly, you can do quite a bit even when everything feels overwhelmed. And the analogy I speak through analogies. The best one that I like to give is, if you have, your apartment, just your room, a great big house, it might seem very daunting. Let's say everything that you have that's yours. If you had to clean everything that day, that's all you're going to do that day. You might think, oh shit, there's so much to do. What do I start with? Because you're like, well, there's so many things I could do all at once. Like, you could run the dishwasher at once, you can vacuum at once, and then you could also run the laundry machine. You could do all those things at once. But it's like, okay, but how do I get them to all happen all at the same time? It's like, well, in order to do that, I have to get the clothes. It's like, okay, well, where are the clothes? So you walk through this process of compartmentalizing what to do. But I always say, just start with your bed. Take everything off your bed. Take all the sheets off, put a new sheet on. Okay? Well, there's no new sheet. Okay, wash that. Sheets on the bed. Make the bed. Bed is perfect. What's on the floor? Take everything from the floor, put it on the bed. Now you have a clean bed and you have a clean floor. Now you've done two things. You've started off with 2 wins. Okay, now that everything's off the bed, now I can dust. Okay, now you've dusted everything. Okay, now let's do the laundry. Now the laundry machine's going. First thing's done. Okay, bedroom's done. Now let's move to the kitchen. What do I start with? Put everything in the sink. Same thing. It's like, just start with the first step. Rather than saying, I need this entire place to be cleaned, start with the one thing that you know how to do. It's like, I don't know what to do. Get out of bed. Get out of bed. Get out of bed, brush your teeth. You know that's what you do.
Yeah.
Start with that. Because then once you start with a win, you can stack those wins. So it's like, you know what? I wasn't going to, shower because, whatever. I'm going to shower now. Now you shower, now you feel good. Maybe you grab you grab a collared shirt rather than, just a regular t-shirt. And now you make breakfast. You don't usually make breakfast because you got up earlier, but you started out by just getting out of bed and brushing your teeth. So when you think too much about like the future, start with what you know how to do, or just go to bed, because chances are you'll forget about it in the morning.
Yeah. It's funny you brought this up, because even just this morning, to prepare for you coming over, took a shower.
Yeah.
Shaved my head.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I want to wear? I want to wear Lee's jeans.
Yep.
I want to wear my Broken View shirt, sort of in honor of the guys, because their new music video just came out.
Nice.
And I cleaned up. I generally am a bit of a clean freak, but
Yeah.
I cleaned up the few things that needed to be cleaned up by. And that was all done by like 9:15. And even though I had about an hour and 15 minutes to spare, I was like, I'm ready for this guy.
Yeah.
Because to your point, you mentioned this earlier, we don't know what we're going to talk about. We generally do. Like, we knew football was probably going to come up. Injury was probably going to come up. Manhattan, probably riff on that for a few minutes. Mm-hmm. But this could go so many different rabbit holes that we're not expecting. So I try not to... I sort of do think about the conversation, but I also don't. Like, when I walk the dog this morning, I don't bring my headphones. I don't bring my phone. I want to just to let my mind run wild for the 35-minute walk and just see what I think about. Maybe I think about how this conversation may go. Maybe I'll think about the weather. Maybe I'll be dodging the 20 fucking spiders that decided to put webs up everywhere last night.
Bro, yes. I was doing the same thing. I saw some in my windowsill, and I was like, nah, I'm getting rid of these suckers. I got the exterminator coming on the 26th of August, too. I'm excited. Look at me. I'm a detail, like, just oriented person. Like, I know exactly, like, again, back to the pictures, bro. But same thing. You want to let the thoughts flow.
Yeah.
And usually I'm fine with silence. Like, I'll sleep with silence. I'll have a fan. It might be some white noise. But I'm not somebody who necessarily needs noise to fall asleep. I prefer it to be quiet, frankly. But, like, whenever I'm, like, doing a task, I prefer lo-fi. Like I would study to lo-fi music. Like it could be like an instrumental to a song that I know, and then I could tune in like halfway through the song. I'm like, oh, like this is like a song that I know. Like this is Gangster Paradise, and this is like the lo-fi rendition of it. I'm like, this is good. And then you check out for a second, listen to that, and then you check back in. But no, exactly to your point. Once you have everything, you should feel prepared rather than like I need something to think about, so I don't overthink what I'm going to talk about later. Yeah. And that's just going with the flow. It's being formless, and it's just letting things happen like they're supposed to. It's going to bed and then making your bed. Like that's like in a nutshell. That's what it starts with. And I take that. I think he was either general, colonel. He's very high ranking, and he spoke at one of the UT graduations, and he goes, best thing you can do is start by making your bed. And then he goes into his Navy SEAL training and how the first thing that you do is you always make your bed. And everyone's yelling at you and everything's going chaotic, but you gotta have your hospital corners done. Yep. You gotta have your bed, perfect, and and they're all yelling at you. It's so you can be calm, cool, and collected in the heat of battle. That's why the training and the practice should be harder than the actual game. It's so you can fall to the level of your training. Same thing. If shit goes wrong, that you've prepared as a man, you've prepared as a human, that I know that I can endure this. If you see a car accident happen and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to do. All right, well, call 911 and see how you can assist and aid. If you don't know what to do, you can talk to somebody, you can take their mind off of it. You can take a necessary step, and then even if not, you still helped, you still called. Yeah. Rather than the bystander effect. You know the bystander effect, right?
Tell us.
So it was a study in psychology where I think there are many different ways you could do it. But in essence, there was a person that was an actor, and they were set to act like they were having a seizure. And so they were in a room with one other person. And when that person had a seizure, that one person came to aid and like got the attention of somebody else. But in a room of like 12 people, that same person goes down. It's like, well, aren't you going to help? Aren't you going to help? Or should I help? Because you don't want to just be like the one to jump in if somebody else is going to jump in. It's like, how many times do you walk by? It's almost like it's better to have a smaller audience because they might be more interactive. So it's another way to look at it. It's a different angle. It's a different perspective. Yeah. So the bystander effect is, oh, I don't need to do that because somebody else will. I don't need to donate to the Salvation Army because I know that the 50 people behind me are going to do that. Well, what if everyone has that same response?
The bystander effect.
Yeah.
How many good things are not getting done because of the bystander effect?
Honestly, I would say quite a bit. I don't want to say it's like a real theory, but I do have a theory, and I don't even know. This is just me riffing off my own knowledge. Like whenever I'm at home by myself, I call it the convenientist theory. Naturally, people will gravitate towards what is more convenient for them, rather than what's actually the best thing to do for that other person or for themselves. Because I think naturally we make a lot of choices that are very selfish. And obviously, depending on your religious upbringing or like your background, you should be very opening and welcoming to other people. And so in my theory, that people often will revert to things that are more convenient. And the example I like to get people kind of thinking in the same line is, if you think back to like your crush in elementary school, chances are the person that you had a crush on was in your homeroom class, or was at least at your school. Obviously, people have celebrity crushes, or it's that person that you'll never see, but like in person, but you see them all the time. But if you think back to like your crush in school, that might be that person that went to your school, because conveniently you saw them a lot. Normally, it would probably be in your homeroom. And is it because that person is there and you see them all the time that you think they're attractive? Or is it because you actually think they're attractive? Next step further, it's the joke, some people say, it's like, oh, like, is it two people who kind of are the same age and they're on the same flight from Dallas to Orlando? And it's like, wow, she's really, really cute. It's like, is she really, really cute? She very well could be. Or is she even cuter because she's the only girl on this plane that seems to be by herself flying? Because it's convenient that we're there together. So like, is it because of the situation? Does it look better? Or is it because of that person actually is? It's almost like drunk goggles in a sense, but in an environment sense. And so is it because it's convenient? Is it because it's there? Like, do we meet somebody because that's my person, or do I meet them because I happen to be in that same city with them, and I happen to be working at the same location, and I went on lunch at that proper time, and we met each other. Some people might say that's destiny. Like my dad, for example. If my dad didn't break his leg, he wouldn't have met my mom. But I don't sit back here and think like, oh no, like that was just because of, it was convenient. It was very inconvenient, I should say.
Yeah.
For my dad to have everything that happened, how he met my mom. Same thing, for my sister, same thing for, myself. Is it because it's what it's supposed to be, or is it because it's just convenient? Why can't it be both? It's supposed to be what it is because it's easy. Has anyone ever told you, like, if it's this hard, it probably is not going to work? Like, if you have to put in that much effort and it's just constantly beating your head against the wall, it's probably, a higher power. It's probably God or just something in the universe telling you, let me push you in a different direction. Because I think one of the hardest decisions in life is determining, is this God telling me to just push a little harder so I can get over this road bump and everything will be easier? Or is he trying to push me in a different direction? And that was my conversation with myself after my foot. Is this God saying like, hey, you've gone through all this shit and you're going to come out even stronger and you're going to continue on the trajectory of football? Or is this, Jack, this is the trajectory to push you away from football and get you onto something else? And I had to sit back and really think like, damn, am I about to stop doing everything that I've done since 4th grade? Because I was a student athlete, but football player was who I was. Yeah. So it kind of goes into like, I didn't know what my identity was. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I was going to lift. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't, was I going to be a consultant? Was I going to be a salesman? Was I going to be a journalist? And I had no idea. And then, now I'm a salesman, but, I see myself as like, just a good guy who happens to be a salesman and like also likes to work out.
I'm laughing because a couple things were going through my head, but one of them, the main one, is I only have one episode that I never released. So I'm like, we're 130 episodes in.
Yeah.
Okay? There's only one that wasn't great. The other 130, I listened to them all start to finish.
Yeah.
I believe that if you won't consume your own content, why would you expect anyone else to?
Oh, yeah.
And so usually I keep a backlog of like 4 or 5 episodes so that by the time I listen to yours, I'm not having to listen to it tomorrow. About 3 weeks goes by, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going to edit Jack's episode today. Yeah. And I'll turn on Jack Maverick Lee Ertz's episode, and I'm listening to it, and I'm just like, damn, this is so good.
Oh, man.
This is so good. I love this episode. Can't wait to release it. Can't wait to share it with everyone.
Yeah.
And part of me, this is where I struggle with Christian upbringing, left the church, and where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, is this all just luck?
Yeah.
I stumbled across your profile on Instagram. There is nothing on it. I went over to your LinkedIn page because there was only like 4 posts, saw the psychology thing like we talked about on the phone. I was like, this could be interesting. I'm going to shoot this guy an invite. I have no idea what will come of it. He might think I'm a bot and ignore me. He might come on the show. It'll be an okay episode. He might come on the show. It'll be a great episode.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a part of me where I'm like, is these 130 episodes just a collection of like hard work? Is it luck? Am I just getting lucky that Jack happened to see the invitation? He happened to be down to come on, and it was a good episode. Is this a higher power? There is a God, a higher power, karma, Mother Nature, like that is giving me this gut feeling of, there's not a lot about Jack online, but just do it. Just do it. Just send him the invite.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, so I just keep moving forward to your point. I just keep making my bed. I take a shower, put on clothes that make me feel good, and keep sending out invites and just keep riding this wave of luck, God, or hard work, or combination of all three that I apparently am riding.
Yeah, I would say it's what I tell my buddies and myself. If it was meant for you, it doesn't miss you because everything that's meant for you won't miss you. So if you have that one person, and you're like, dude, I would love to get this person on the podcast, and they just never say, all right, so what? It sucks, it might be like, disheartening to be like, damn, like, I'm really trying, I want a better way to reach out to people. Right now it's Instagram and it's, LinkedIn and then this and then that. And it's, well, so long as you do all that you can by all the means you can and all the places you can to all the people you can, then you have nothing to worry about. And we always, take this burden on ourselves to want to do more and always ask, am I doing enough? Like, I can assure you it's nice to have other people in your life because they can sit there and tell you you're doing more than what other people would do. You know, like I don't know too many people that would put this amount of passion into something that they really, really enjoy and then become part of the 5%. You know, that's something that you'll be able to carry on with you. You know, like, yeah, I played FCS football. Other people are like, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I have ESPN stats. They're nothing great to look at, you know, but they're there. And other people are like, this is awesome. The fact that you're listed on ESPN and you have stats next to your name that you played in college is awesome. And I'm like, it is an achievement. It is something to be happy about, but it's not who I am. You know, I'm just going to let it be because I don't want people to know me as like Jack the football player. I want them to be like, that's Jack, and he's a good example. He's a good example of an excellent human being. And, you know, he doesn't always get it right, but, you know, by God, he's trying. Like, he's doing his best. Like, he'll never stop trying. And, like, that's what I want people to say. And, you know, I say the same thing. Like, it just regardless of whatever, like, happens, you know, it should be a positive interaction. You know, there's too much just brokenness in the world, so there's no, you know, disservice in trying to put a little bit of it back together. Quote from Desmond Doss, Hacksaw Ridge. He was the guy who went into battle and didn't carry a weapon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jack, this has been so much fun.
As we
great. Sort of start to wrap things up, is there anything that you really wanted to riff on today that we haven't brought up yet?
Honestly, I mean, whenever I was driving over here and, you know, thinking about it and like the weeks, you know, coming, you know, I think we've really hit on just about everything. Is there anything that you wanted to talk on or riff on or bring up?
I have 2 more questions for you, yes.
Perfect.
Actually, 3.
Okay.
Will you come back next year?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
I want you back.
Yeah. No, that would be good. Yeah, come full circle.
Fuck yeah.
That would be awesome.
Actually, I lied. I have 4 more questions for you.
Okay, 4
Can we
more?
work out together one day?
Dude, absolutely.
I would love to get a workout in with you.
Dude, for sure. We can definitely get it in. Usually my weekends are much more flexible. But, dude, absolutely.
All right, cool. Final 2 questions. I've asked this one of about 5 or 6 guests now, and all of the answers have been wildly different. And I'm like, I got to keep asking this question.
Yeah.
Because I think the audience needs to hear it. It lights my internal fire. And I love that everyone gives just a completely different answer than everyone else. What gives you hope?
I would say the unknown. You don't know how good it could be, but you also don't know how bad it could be. It's all about the perspective. So by going out on a whim and doing something on your own, if you go into it just saying, I'm going to give it my all, I'm going to put in the best effort I can and have a good attitude, then what's the worst that could happen? There's no such thing as like wasted time. And the biggest cliche in life is that somebody says, the biggest lie is it's not that simple, because it is. It's truly that simple. If somebody's like, well, no, there's a lot of things that go into it. Well, no, on a very, you know, minute basis, everything is. Because I could sit here and say, okay, so, you know, to the football listeners out there, they might pick up on this. But, you know, somebody who isn't like as versed and did it as long, I'd say, okay, we're going to run 4 verts, and I'm going to put the running back to the field side, which means chances are the safety is going to play that side. But they're running cover 3. The middle of the field's covered, and they also have a floating backer in there as well because they took out their stand-up D end. So we're going to have time to throw, and we got 4 verts. However, in the 4 vert situation, all the corners are going to drop back. Our fast wide receivers on the right side, they're going to favor that side. I don't know if our tight end's going to be able to get off the ball fast enough. And I want the safety to pick a side of the field, and I want to throw to the opposite. I might say all that to you, and you'd be like, okay, that's all fine, well, and good. And you might, you know, not understand it, but the important part is that like you're willing to sit here and listen. You're willing to, you know, hear me out, and you're willing to, you know, trust the process even if you don't see like the picture. You know, you sit on the plane and you trust the pilot when you know, even though you're anxious, like you trust the pilot even though you don't know him. You know, you trust the bus driver, you don't know him. You trust the guy who's operating the train. You know, you trust the coach who's calling the plays. So you trust that somebody in front of you knows more than what you know. And sometimes if that isn't a person, to me, that's God. You know, it's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that it's all part of his will, even though it sucks, because in the suffering you find salvation is how I see it. So through all the bad, you get redirected to the good.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Jack, you're such a good human being.
Man, I appreciate it.
What are your parents' names?
Fred and Steph.
Fred and Steph. I want to thank you because I don't have any kids, but I imagine that parenting is one of the hardest and one of the most important jobs on our planet.
Yeah.
And as I've got to sit across from your son for the last 2 hours, he has definitely lit my internal fire so that I can keep going with this podcast. And sometimes that is just what I need. And he delivered it for me this morning. So
man.
thank you for the amazing job that you guys did raising your son and your daughter. You guys crushed it as parents. Do you think they're going to listen to this?
Oh, I'm going to send it to him.
All right,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To the audience, as I wrap up this last question with Jack, I have a favor to ask of you guys. If you sat through this entire episode, you heard the part earlier where I talked about the one person that we need to reach. I don't know who him or her is. I don't know if they're in the United States, in Australia, in Africa. They could be, who knows? Who knows where they are? And the only way that we can reach them is actually through you. I've done my job. Jack has done his job. I'm putting the burden on you now to do something that will take 20 seconds of your time and absolutely none of your money. If you're listening on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're on Spotify, follow the podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, hit that follow button. And if you hit that follow button, it'll boost this episode just a little bit so we can reach that young man or woman who is in the middle of their college career that feels lost. They just broke their foot. They think that they lost their entire identity and they think they don't even know who they are anymore. We have to reach them. We have to. So please do your part and hit that follow button while I ask Jack this last question, which I actually don't know what it's going to be. So you're going to pick a card.
Okay.
And you're going to read it.
Okay.
And you're going to answer it.
All right. Let's take this one. This is interesting. What lesson have you learnt from your lowest point? And is there anything about it that you're grateful for? Well, I mean, the lesson I think we've kind of hit on.
I was going to say that you chose a very ironic one because I feel like we sort of covered it. You want to choose a different one?
Yeah, we can. Let's
I'll
see.
trade you.
We'll take this one. What are you missing most in your life? I was actually talking to my buddy about this. So on Friday morning, I went to daily mass and then I went to adoration before I went to work. And I'm extremely thankful to, be so close, because in the town I live in, it's within like walking distance of like the church and then my office. And I was talking to him, and we're both Catholic, and we worked together in Houston, and then he moved back home, and we've stayed in touch. And I asked him, I said, do you ever just know that you're doing the right thing? Like you're going to mass, you're going to, you're participating in the sacraments, you're going to confession, and you're reading the Bible and you're trying your best. I said, but do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions and you don't have that fervor in your life that, you think you should because you're doing the right thing? Like when you hold the door open for like, that sweet old lady and she's like, oh, thank you, baby. And like, yeah. And you're just like, it makes you feel good. And then you're like, all right, cool. Like, you know what? I might get that pint of ice cream at the grocery store now because, it makes you feel good. Well, what happens when you know that you're doing the right thing, but it's just not hitting it like it should? And you're just like, that's weird. And I would say sometimes it goes back to doing things for the wrong reason, but it's not the wrong reason per se, because that it's the right thing to do, but you might just have the wrong perspective. And so I was going to mass and adoration because I knew that I want to get into that. I want that to be a part of it. It's the next step to go above and beyond. But it didn't feel like I was doing that. And I felt like I was missing something. I felt like I was trying to get more out of it than what it is. And because of that, I wasn't letting what it is truly be itself, which is in adoration, it's to be with the Blessed Sacrament. It's just to be one with Jesus and to be present with him in the form of the consecrated host, and just to spend time with him. And you sometimes think like this huge, big, just goodness, that loud playing.
Yeah, it's like, God. Jeez.
You might think that there's this huge revival and this huge just engulfing feeling is going to come over you and it's just going to feel like amazing and uplifting. Well, sometimes that's not the case. And I think the biggest thing I'm missing is the perfect consistency that I'll never achieve. Because Jesus is the perfect example. He's the unblemished lamb. And our goal is to strive to be righteous men and women, and to try to be perfect like he was, but you'll never get there. And I think that there's two ways to look at that. Why do it if I'll never achieve it? But then there's also is like, well, if the bar is set infinitely high, you'll never know how good you could be. So there's no scale of how good somebody is, how righteous they are. It's just being a good person. So when I read, what are you missing most in your life? I would say it's the consistency to know that I can wake up and everything's going to go exactly like it should, because I know God's at the helm of my life, because I try to control it sometimes. So I think I miss the hands-off nature. I could say I don't have a spouse. I don't know who I'm going to marry. I don't know where I'm going to retire. I don't know, what my job is going to be for the rest of my life. I love my job currently, and I'd love to stay here for a very long time, for as long as, that may be. I don't know. And I would say I'm not missing that information. I would say I'm missing what I can control, which is consistency in what I know I should do. And that goes back to that it's hard. It's hard to do it all the time. The Christian life is not, easy. Few are called to the supper of the Lamb, but those who are called are blessed. So I am missing perfection, but I'll never achieve it. And I love that, because that means there's endless possibilities of how good it could be. So that's my answer.
Whew. Jack.
Big time.
This is, yes, you are big.
No, man.
There's this one guy that I invited on the podcast. I think it was like episode 7, and he also didn't have much on his Instagram page. And he shows up, knocks on the door. He came up from that staircase, so I didn't see him, didn't know he was on. Like, I saw you for a quick second. I opened the door. This guy, of course, his name is Judd.
Nice.
And he's like 6'6", 6'7".
Big boy.
My nickname for him affectionately is Goliath.
Yep.
Just all muscle, probably 280 pounds. Judd, I don't know your stats. I'm sorry. But I remember just opening the door and being like, hello.
Yeah. I've invited you over into my dwelling.
Yes. Jack, thank you so much for being part of this. This podcasting has been one of the funnest, most energizing things I've ever done with my life, and I'm so grateful that you were a part of the journey and will continue to be a part of it when you come back next year and even off the pod, just to see where our friendship goes. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everything you brought to the table.
Thank you, sir.
To the audience, thank you guys for listening. It makes my day that you have joined us and that you would care to tune into these episodes. I know that you guys took something from this episode. The question for you now is, what are you going to do with it? Are you just going to listen and feel slightly motivated for a second, or are you going to have the courage, which I know you have? You might have to dig deep for it, but I know you have the courage to take some of the things that Jack talked about today and apply them to your own life, so you can see how you can elevate your own journey as you move on with your Saturday. With that being said, stay healthy, stay happy. I love you all. Have a wonderful day.